Welcome to Movies, Film, Cinema, your premier movie podcast where we deep dive into the world of movies, dissecting the latest blockbusters, celebrating classic films, and exploring the magic of cinema. Join us as we discuss everything from Hollywood hits to indie gems, all things movies, under one roof. Pop some popcorn, close that disc tray, and enjoy Movies, Film, Cinema. Welcome to Movies, Film, Cinema. I'm your host, Big Bird. We're your premier movie podcast where we love talking about movies more than Keanu Reeves loves taking on roles that are named John. Speaking of John, hey, I'm here with my esteemed co-host. As always with me, I've got John the Man Balaban, I've got Billy V, and Tyler the Mime Doctor. Today, guys, we're talking about the movie October Sky, which is right there. Have you guys seen this movie before? Do you remember it at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they showed this back in school. I don't remember what year, if it was like elementary school, middle school, something like that. But I don't know if it was to inspire us or some science thing for the fair or whatever the reason. But yeah, I saw this in school back in the day.
Yeah, that's what it was for me. I think I was a freshman in high school, and our physics teacher showed us this. It was one of those rare opportunities where they said, "Oh, you get to watch a movie today in science," which was unusual, And so I remembered it from that, but until I rewatched it for this, I didn't remember a lot of it. I didn't remember how good it was.
I don't remember it at all. I don't remember if I saw it or if I didn't or just didn't remember it. There was the scene where he's like in the shaft looking up and you could see the satellite, which is a very iconic scene, which is like, oh yeah, okay, that's what that's from. But yeah, I don't remember this movie at all.
Sure.
Well, it's funny you guys say that you remember this from science class, because that's actually where I remember watching this movie for the first time as well.
What grade? Because we were in the same school in high school. Like, what? I don't remember seeing it.
Well, as you may not remember, I didn't come to you guys to Colorado till freshman year, but I do remember watching this in like 7th or 8th grade. I remember watching a similar story to Tyler, where he said, "Oh God, we're watching a movie in science class. This never happens, right?" One anecdote: I was watching this movie with my girlfriend, and I was telling her like a fun story was we had watched this movie. We made some model rockets for our science class, and we shot them outside. And I remember this was on like the backside of the school where the football field was at. But the teacher said, "Hey, you get double points for the project. After you shoot this in the air, you can like run and go catch it," because I had like a parachute. After I saw like the third kid's rocket, and I was like, "There's no way I'm catching this." But if I get a chance to like not hang around like the teacher or the kids, like I'm just gonna run. So I ended up running like 2 football fields away to go catch it, and like I almost caught it, but I didn't. But I was gonna say I do remember that there's like a kind of like a proud teacher moment in here where, and we'll kind of get to this one later in a little bit, where he ends up using math to kind of prove that he doesn't commit a crime. And if you haven't seen the movie, we won't spoil it for you quite yet. But that was kind of like the see kids, you can use math to, prove yourself right in the arms of justice. So thought that was kind of like a fun, after school special type of anecdote. I really thought that this kind of film really fit really well into kind of like the American dream, like narrative that we kind of grew up with as kids. Did you guys kind of get that feeling as well? Like no matter where you come from, like, if you work hard, you can kind of, make it anywhere. Did you guys kind of get that same sense of feeling as well?
I don't know if I would say it as the American dream as much. For me, it was almost more like breaking generational expectations or something like that.
Yeah, because it was like, well, why are you trying to build rockets? You're from a coal mining town. Everyone in your family is a coal miner. You're going to mine coal.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just jump right into. I'm probably the curmudgeon in this group, and I didn't like it because of those aspects. I like the way you put it, John. It is very breaking the generational norm, more so than the American dream, but I do see the American dream storyline in there.
It's part of it, sure.
But on my side of things, I thought it was all way too forced and Oscar bait. So I think I'm the outlier in this group that I don't remember seeing this movie growing up, and I didn't like it watching it now.
Gotcha.
I actually was Yeah, and we'll probably dive into my reasons why, but yeah, I
Sure.
think it is. I think it was trying too hard to be the breaking the generational norm, like you're saying there, John, and then also like forcing in there the whole this is the American dream and you can have it too.
Sure.
But yeah,
Were you focusing on just the story?
everything. It was all the aspects. It was the score, the sound score, the plot lines, and how it developed. It was very. I felt like it was definitely a movie and product of its time. Like it was very '90s
Yeah.
formulaic, and I don't know if you know the term Oscar bait, but it seemed like the plot points were very there and not organic. They were just there.
I mean,
to, like
I don't know the term, but I can extrapolate,
Yeah.
I get the same type of feeling from this movie that I get from, and this might be taken a weird way unless I explain it correctly, but that I get from like Shawshank Redemption, but just maybe like an adolescent version of it.
Yeah,
Not necessarily that the story goes the same way, but the way that the film was made.
Yeah,
Kind of
that's
to
a
the points
good
that you're saying.
good
Okay.
example. Like because Shawshank is also kind of written in that formulaic, like Oscar bait formula, but I feel like that was done in a it was executed in a way better
Sure,
way. I like,
sure.
What
Yeah,
is the term
definitely
you
different
use?
calibers of movie for sure.
Yeah, you just said this one is more of a infant.
Adolescent.
Adolescent. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It is because it is the same formula, but it
Mhm.
didn't achieve it in a stronger, more cinematic way, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Now, when you were watching it, did you know that it was a true story and that most of the points were actual, factual
Dude,
pieces?
honestly, growing up, I've heard the name October Sky. Never knew what it was about.
Gotcha.
When the movie first starts, like, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal. There you go. Oh boy.
Yeah.
That was my first reaction, and then obviously they give you the excerpt that it's based on true events and stuff like that. So
Sure.
yeah, I knew nothing about it going into it, but
Yeah.
very quickly, definitely past the first act, like it just felt way too formulaic and yeah.
See, I don't know that I've ever taken it that way, just probably because of the nostalgia that I have for it as well, but I can fully see where you're coming from with all of that.
Yeah, and I tried to in movies like this, I try to put my mindset in the mindset of the '90s, and
Sure.
like try to like enjoy it for what it was when it first probably came out. But yeah, there's moments where like when like the violin section of the soundtrack would like swell in at certain moments, I actually chuckled out loud because it was a very like '90s way to like make you feel emotion.
Yep.
So it was like a cheesy archetype for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
I can see
Unfortunately,
that.
and I can see why. I know that October Sky, the name has weight to it in the cinematic world, and I know a lot of people enjoy this film. So it was kind of weird for me to just like sit there and chuckle at moments like that, knowing that there's people out there that absolutely live and die by this movie. But
I have plenty of movies that I feel that way, where it's like universally loved and for accurate, like valid reasons, and it just doesn't work for me. I'm like, nope,
yeah.
I don't see what everybody else sees, so I
Yeah.
fully get that.
Well, that's my time on this podcast. I'll let you guys. I guess I'll see myself out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, besides, Bill kind of, poo-pooing on the American dream.
Yeah. I don't like the American dream.
Yeah. American Nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, in the same vein of kind of you had alluded to, John, was like the adolescent factor. I thought about there's in movies in general, especially in American movies, there's a lot of like you're on the cusp of becoming an adult type of thing, and it's taking you from your what your known world is, so to speak, outside to where you would become an adult to like something different, and you're kind of rebelling against what kind of is like the social norm, so to speak, to get to that greater place. So kind of defying the odds movies. I was just kind of thinking of like other movies like within the same realm. I don't know if you guys have
I
seen
mean, it's
Coach
a coming
Carter.
of age story,
Yeah. Coach Carter or Take the Lead.
I was gonna say a
very
lot
similar.
of sports movies I feel like have the same type of vibe
Yeah.
of like overcoming like staggering odds or people that might not be supporting you in whatever your endeavor is, which this movie teeters on that. It's not about it, but
Yeah. And it, kind of rolling into our next point here. It's interesting you say that like people not supporting you. This movie is actually based off of a real, true life story of the gentleman is after, Homer Hickam. He wrote the book called The Rocket Boys, which October Sky is an anagram for the Rocket Boys. If you take the time to just dissect that. But on the Blu-ray feature over here, there was a really cool documentary about kind of like what was real versus what was kind of Hollywoodized. In the movie, there's like a lot of chances and instances where like the town really doesn't seem to be like on the side of the boys, or trying to they're like making fun of them and doing that. Per per the story or per the book, when the gentleman is talking about his life, he's actually like tells us the story of like, because the town was behind all of us getting out of there. Like the education was like a huge thing, like getting out of this West Virginia coal mining place. So everything that the town could do to kind of like help these boys to get out, because they wanted to see their children succeed. It's a really like endearing story on the book side, but for like the movie side, it doesn't play well for like the antagonist protagonist, when you're trying to like tell a story. And those moments within the movie where you see the dad kind of like lament and say like, well, if you want to do this, that's fine, if you want to do that, that's fine. It kind of feels a little bit more endearing and like helps push the story along. So we'll go through the whole movie and like, hey, that happened, that really didn't happen, this is actually what happened. But I just thought it was really interesting how the movie decided to kind of like take their spin or twist on this. And maybe that's why, Bill, you feel so kind of like this is like formulaic type of thing.
Yeah, it's all coming together now. But I think that's why I didn't care for it, is because it seemed like all that angst that they built into the script in order to give it a energy and a Hollywood formula to it, I think was too forced. The whole fight between his dad, like the whole struggle between him and his dad trying to get out of the town and everything, it was just too beat by beat formulaic and stuff like that. And so yeah, maybe that's why it just didn't sit well with me, because it just didn't seem believable at all.
I think like their confrontation that they had at the end there, like that wasn't great.
Yeah.
See, and I saw it a little bit differently than Brandon, than you're saying there too. Because the way I watched the movie, I didn't necessarily see that the town was against them in any way, or any like large group of people. It was more individuals. And then in that sense, there's almost an individual arc for each character that does oppose them, for themselves to overcome within the movie. So it's like little subplots that you don't really get to
Yeah.
delve into, but they are happening in the background. And so like the principal, for example, is a good or a good representation of that. Where at first it seems like he's just wholly opposing them, but then as soon as they're proven innocent, he reevaluates the situation. And he's like, all right, we're going to get you boys to the science fair. So it's not so much that the town was against them depicted in the movie. It's that each of these individuals had this internal conflict that they had to overcome because of those generational norms. At least that's the way I saw it.
No, that's fair. I was gonna say, I do feel like they do a really good job of like kind of like explaining away like each individual moment for each individual person, like how they overcome that. There's the coal miner in the beginning who tells Jake Gyllenhaal like, what, you're too good for coal mining, then there's the kids in the classroom making fun of them. Then you see them show up later to the rocket thing, like you had pointed out with the principal's like, you guys are making a bomb. He's like, no, actually we're doing rockets. There's the brother who is like, kind of making fun of him. And then he's like, we're here on a Saturday because we ain't got no football. And then like, he's actually like hanging around with him and his mom at those things. So I do see that there's those individual moments, but taking in a broad spectrum, I was like, yeah, the town is not against it, but for sure by the end, like everybody's like on board. Yeah. One thing I would also kind of help Bill in his argument. I don't know if you guys
don't need to help me.
Well, so the book Rocket Boys came out, was published, I believe, in September of 1998, and then the film came out in, let me see here, the film came out in February in 1999. So this
Pretty
movie,
soon
like,
after.
yeah, this movie came out really quick after. So my assumption would be is they probably bought the rights to the book and the movie, and they just pump it in this simple formulaic movie and characters and names are switched around and the situations are all different, but it's really just kind of like boop, 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 boop. So I can see where you kind of make that argument, but I'm just going to say I'm a sucker for those types of movies when they work well and they're done well. So,
I am too when they're done well.
yeah, no, that's fair. So I just figured real quick we can go through kind of directing, cast, and things like that. If you guys want to jump in and just like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that person was doing this or that person is doing that, please feel free to hop in. I'm just going to go through it really quickly. I've got the director Joe Johnston. He was before this movie, he was really known for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989, The Rocketeer, Pagemaster, Jumanji. And my personal bias, I like him because he was the director for Captain America, the first one. So he has a slew of like kids movies from kind of like, when we grew up, on
Pagemaster, that's legit.
Yeah. Which,
I just showed Shirley that movie recently. She had never seen it before. We had a great time watching it. It was another nostalgia trip that I just loved every minute of.
I don't know if I've ever seen that whole thing, but
Really?
I've seen parts of it on TV.
Oh yeah, Christopher Lloyd. Oh, he's so awesome in that movie.
yeah, that was a good one. That one I remember renting at Blockbuster back in the day. So
Yeah, I had one of the VHS copies as like the big Disney version where it's like the big plastic case or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, the clamshell. Yep.
Yep.
So Jake Gyllenhaal is our star of this movie. He first burst onto the scene in Billy Crystal's City Slickers, played his son in 1991. Before then, he was really just kind of known for like TV spots, nothing really big or anything like that. Did some commercials, but October Sky is kind of like his breakout role. It was his first lead in a movie. He's kind of most well known for Donnie Darko, which comes out a few years later in 2001. He's also really known for Brokeback Mountain. Comes out a few years after that. But also in 2001, my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie is Bubble Boy. Have you guys ever seen that movie?
I actually haven't.
Like the name.
Oh, dude, Bubble Boy is so good. There's so many quotable lines from that movie, and then like there's so many like random actors that show up in there. Like Danny Trejo is in there,
Yeah.
and
That's
probably like
awesome.
one of my favorite actors within that movie. And then the DVD, that if you ever get the DVD, there's so many like bonus features and stuff like that. That's pretty awesome.
I've always heard good things. For whatever reason, I just never got the chance to see it all the way through. I've seen like bits and pieces, so probably if I was to think back across it, I might have seen the whole movie just in sections. But yeah, I don't think I've ever sat down and watched it.
It's definitely worth a watch. That's a nostalgia train for sure.
Sure. A lot of that going on lately.
Oh, for sure. The father of the series here is or movie rather is Chris Cooper. So one thing that I found really interesting with kind of Chris Cooper as an actor in general, he plays like a disappointed father like a lot. That's kind of like his like niche. So he plays in 1999. He also plays a disgruntled father in American Beauty, where he's kind of like the homophobic dad. Turns out to be gay himself, which is kind of interesting. One of his big movies before this time period was A Time to Kill. It was a John Grisham adaptation. I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie, but that's a really, really good one. He also plays a disgruntled father in the Marvel Universe as Norman Osborn, which is kind of an interesting anecdote.
Yeah, it's in the Andrew Garfield ones, right?
Yep, exactly correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching this movie, and I told Shirley I can't picture that dude being nice, just because he always gets typecast as like the dickhead dad or whatever.
I wonder as an actor if that's just who he is personality wise and he just gets those roles, or if he's the complete opposite and he just keeps getting those roles and that's just who he is now.
See, that's what I picture.
Accept it.
I picture him being super nice, like in my mind, but I can't like physically see it just because his face is always so like angry. You know what I mean?
Well, I do a handful of amateur acting, and I playing bad guys is fun.
That's what everybody says. I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, you just get to release and just be gnarly and just be the person that you're totally not.
Yeah.
So maybe that's awesome.
One role that I love him in is if you're a fan of the Muppets. I can't remember if it's the first one or the second one, but he's the bad guy in that. And rather than laughing, he just goes maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh, and like all the Muppets around him are like, ha 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 ha. So he's definitely an actor. Every time that I see him on the screen, I'm like, oh, I wonder what bad guy he's playing today.
I always enjoy him, but yeah, it's hard to picture him being a positive character. I mean, he kind of is in this movie, but I mean, like an all-out positive character.
For sure. There's
He's
this,
your all-out American dad, is what he is in this
Yeah,
one. Back
right,
in the
yeah.
day, yeah.
yeah. There's that scene where him and his wife fight in the movie, and you gotta see him crack a smile, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, those guys love each other.
Yeah, but that's the only time he smiles is like when they're fighting like that. She's like threatening to leave him, and he's like, "Oh, all right, I see your backbone there. Good."
Yep, exactly. Well, speaking of character actors, the other character actor we have is Chris Owen. He's been, typecast, quite often as like the nerdy kid, just because
He's
he
the
kind of
redheaded
has
kid,
those.
right?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Bill would know him from a mutual movie that we actually love. Came out in 1995, which is Major Payne.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Also 1995, Angus. I don't know if you guys ever saw that one. It was a speaking of coming to age
Not
story.
familiar with that
It
one.
was a
No.
great one. The other movie he was in, and the subsequent movies he was in, was An American Pie in 1999, as well as The Shermanator. So,
The Shermanator. What the heck
yeah.
is that?
Well, his name is Sherman, but he sub named himself. How does one say that? He coined his own nickname as the Shermanator.
Yeah.
So he is a nerd, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the Shermanator." You know what I
Trying to
mean?
make
Like,
himself a
Yeah.
ladies' man, but failing at
exactly,
every step of the way.
McLovin style.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
exactly. That's a
Yep,
perfect
you got that
perfect
exactly right.
comparison.
Um, for our last couple people here, I have Laura Dern, which
Feel the
when you
Dern. I kept yelling that throughout the movie every time she popped up. Shirley was just
oh
giving me
really?
these looks. Feel the Dern.
Well, most people will know her from Jurassic Park in 1993, and then her subsequent reprisal of those roles as well throughout the Jurassic Park "quote unquote" universe. But the other major thing she was in David Lynch's The Mask in 1985. Rest in peace, David Lynch. Gentleman just passed away. And our last two, which were the other part of the Rocket Boys, were William Lee Scott and Chad Lindbergh. They're really accomplished character actors themselves. There's a huge smattering of IMDb stuff and TV shows and popular movies and stuff that they've been on. So they are definitely working actors.
They're
I
not really
thought they were
household names, but they're like the type of guys who are like you'd know his face if you saw him.
for sure. Yeah.
It's weird because I only know Chad Lindbergh through the first most amazing film ever made, Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. Jesse, right? I think is his name.
Well, Jesse, yeah. I don't know, because like you
Just
said,
a
I guess
Jetta.
his IMDb is enormous, but I guess I just haven't seen a lot of his films or whatever, and I just know him as Jesse from. So when I saw him, I'm like, oh, he does other things.
Yeah, right. Or did other things.
did other things, yeah.
Which now that we say like they're character actors and they bring a uniqueness to the role. Did you guys notice that he like had like a limp the whole time?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I noticed because especially when they found their new launch site when they got to the top of the hill, his leg is like. So is that just a disability he has as a human, or was there a cut scene? Was there a scene that they like filmed and cut and he had a limp? Because he wasn't limping in the scenes before that, right?
I don't think I noticed it in the scene when they were shooting out in the woods, and he says like, "We're gonna hang out here like hillbillies or whatever." I noticed it in that scene, and then and I was like, I don't remember it before.
Yeah,
So,
when he was climbing up the hill, it's either the actual like Chad actually has a disability that we just don't know about or whatever, and that's his actual gait, or they cut a scene. Like they got into a more of a tussle or something like that, because the way he was like the way his leg was and the way he was limping up it's like there's definitely it's not like they highlighted it in the camera angle, but the fact that he's
but they're
back
showing
in the group, they're showing it. It's like
yeah,
it had to
I'm
be a
with you.
cutscene or something like that. I didn't really care for the movie too much, so I didn't really do any research.
Sure,
So I should have gone in and like done some like behind the scenes and stuff like that. But I got the feeling they cut a scene that
Apparently you were paying closer attention than I was. I guess I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it's a pretty lopsided gait that he has, and his foot's like super hard cocked to the right. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like because they got into the tussle right before that, right? Where
I think so.
Jake Gyllenhaal's like leaving the group, and then they catch up to it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it must have been something. Something happened.
Well, as a human who has no depth perception, I probably just think everybody walks like that.
The whole world walks like that, and you don't, right? So
Yeah.
like the whole world's askew.
Something.
Yeah.
Well, the mime doctor doesn't notice unless they come to his office, right?
Yep, unless he's miming it. Did you? Is that the end of your list of noticeable actors, or because I had one that popped up for me?
Sure, that was my list there. I mean, there's some other character actors in here that are in here. There's the gentleman, I think his name's Boryeski or something like that. The gentleman who is definitely of Eastern European descent. He has been like every Russian character, every movie who's ever existed.
He's always like a bad guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
but speaking of Spider-Man, do you know who he is in the Spider-Man universe?
I was going to say he's in Spider-Man. Go ahead.
The landlord. So that's another, just like Chad, that's another actor that it's like, I haven't seen him in anything else. So when his face popped up, I'm like, yeah, the landlord.
Yep.
He's the guy, at least I think he's one of the guys who's like in the group of people that hijacks Air Force One in the movie.
That's what I've been trying to think of. Thank you. It's been going through my head. I've been trying to figure it out. But yeah.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Nope,
okay,
it's him.
Because I was like, I'm probably wrong about that, but that's just for it. Because I loved that movie when I was a kid.
Me too.
Like, that's what I wanted America to be like, and it's not like that. But that's how I imagine, like, yeah, America. Like, that's what it's like.
Any threat, your president just rips his tie off and kicks ass.
Well, yeah, and then like it was, everything was black and white, and it was easy, and I don't know. It was just like this, it's feel good, like false patriotism.
Oh yeah.
So Harrison Ford for president 2028 or whatever.
I think that's what we're saying. Yeah.
As long as he's not the Red Hulk.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, is this Air Force One you guys talked about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Harrison Ford fits the age criteria, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Well, hey guys, that's all I got for this section. Before we head to the meat and potatoes here. Well, hey Bill, I know that you as a filmmaker probably can kind of agree with me as far as the story is concerned. I really found in the beginning of this movie that they had some really good exposition, and maybe to kind of help your argument of your point of what you were saying as far as like the formulaicness. I thought they did a really good job of like showing versus telling as far as the exposition. They have the scenes where they kind of have like the shots of the town, of the city, of the mine and stuff like that, and like they have that swelling music that you had talked about earlier. They have the overture, things like that. The other thing that I thought that was really kind of cool and neat and kind of helps kind of set the mood is the radio podcast that they have, or radio broadcast that they have in the back. They have the radio broadcast in that.
There's a time traveler and he went back and did a podcast.
wrong century.
Yeah.
Of them talking about Sputnik and stuff like that. Did you want to go ahead and just kind of jump in there and kind of
I will say, like, even though I kind of poo-pooed and said that the whole movie was formulaic and the soundtrack was cheesy, I would say the beginning montage was the only part of the movie that actually worked for me. Exactly what you're saying. They did a lot of showing, not telling. It was a nice little like setup of the city and the town and who they are as a coal mining town and all that stuff. It really worked for me. And then after the beginning, it very quickly just petered off for me, because I think I was just set up so strongly in the beginning, and then it just became so formulaic that the rest of the film was just for me. But yeah, the beginning, it was really well done. Like you said, you got the nice little barber shop of the guy getting his nice 2 bits and a shave haircut, and the Sputnik radio podcast was on in the background.
Yeah.
So yeah, the beginning really worked for me.
Yeah. The other thing, and me being the history guy, that I really enjoyed as well. And Tyler, hopefully you can kind of talk about this a little bit. I really kind of enjoyed kind of like the time period that they set this movie in, and I really felt that they did a really good job as far as like kind of the making sure that everything was period correct, all of the stuff that they wore, that they did, that they used. I know that you're going to be more familiar with kind of like the actual equipment that they would be using around that time. One thing that before I kind of let the dog off the chain there and let you kind of dive into that, um, is one thing that the author had wrote about, which is the main character of this. He said, and you could probably speak to this as well, Tyler, is that the company owned everything in the town. Owned the schools, owned the houses, owned every last bit of part of everything. He had even made a joke saying that the company owed the church, and even the pastor was on the payroll. So do you want to kind of like talk about kind of mining possibly in that time period, or just mining in general, or
Sure.
something that you found that was kind of cool?
Yeah, well, they really, whoever, was doing the visuals there, they seem to have a really good handle on stuff that was period correct. As far as I could tell, obviously I wasn't alive then, but I've always found that mid-century period to be interesting, especially mining. My wheelhouse is hard rock mining in the American West and the Canadian West, not coal, which is it. They overlap. They're similar, but they're actually quite different, both culturally and just the actual physical work that people do is different. But company towns were a huge thing, in that period, especially, in West Virginia and in PA and other areas where they had, along the Appalachians. Of course, like I said, like that. This is the edge of my knowledge because I don't know coal very well, but there is overlap. And so there were a lot of things that I said, oh, I know what that is, or, oh, I've heard that is what they did, or just that I knew what they were talking about. Like some of the terminology that they were using just in passing, like it wouldn't mean anything to anybody. Like, they could have just made up some bullshit and nobody would question it, like, oh, you're doing this, in the mine or whatever. Nobody's going to say, well, that's wrong. Well, what they said was right. Like I heard at one point, I believe it was his dad, talking about how they were like, did you pull that pillar? That's real terminology. So like in a room and pillar mine, often you're going through an ore body and you'll leave pillars to support everything, and if you were to remove pillars and you're not, your engineer hasn't studied that to make sure that it's going to be competent, you're going to cause a huge cave-in, obviously, and so what they do, why do they leave those? It's because you're going right through the center of the ore, and that's some really valuable ore. So they get greedy and they're like, fuck, well, we left some of these pillars. We'd really like to kind of carve out a little bit of that, so that we can utilize that ore, for production. And so our values will go higher at the mill or whatever, but it's dangerous. And so I don't recall exactly if that was the cause of one of the accidents there, but I do remember them using that terminology, and that's pretty accurate, and then like, when they caged down, like, and just all those scenes, those were fun for me, and I laughed because I was like, they're going to think that I picked this movie because of this fucking shit. And I didn't even remember that this had any mining in it. I remembered that like it had taken place, maybe like, in the Northeast or something, but it had been a fucking quarter century since I had seen it. So I didn't remember any of that. So that was a treat, like their hard hats. A lot of those were really, those were accurate. They have there's one model that like, you see in the hard rock West, the stuff that's out, in Colorado and in the drier areas, it's called a skull guard. It's kind of like a resin thing that is a darker color. And one guy had one that was a really cool one. I had one that had a big brim. Like, I want that. Like, I have one of those and I use one. And I liked his. I was like, I wish they still made them like that, because you can buy them from that. You can buy them from that period, but they're so old, they're like potato chips, so not useful.
Don't really protect your brain anymore, huh?
No, not really. But they look cool. But yeah, there was just a lot of that stuff. And then like when they're down in the mine, you saw that real strange kind of flat vehicle that they were riding. Like that's called a man trip. And that's what you would get in, and they'd drive you out to your work heading or whatever. Some mines had those on rails. That was more common out west, was to have those vehicles on rails. But lots of that stuff was accurate, which was fun. Their cap lamps, those were accurate. I'm sure they used the stuff they could get a hold of. Those are called Kohler wheats, I think. It was the version that they used to use. It was an incandescent lamp. Although Bill, you could probably talk about this. Like they use the same noise every time. This weird little like analog kind of click sound when they would turn the lamp on. It was like you would have to have a microphone like right there. You wouldn't be able to hear that. Yeah, and also, I don't think those lamps had that kind of switch. So that's just some dumb, like being super, like hypercritical or whatever. But it's interesting when it's a subject that you know a little bit about. So you're like, huh. But yeah, a lot of the mining stuff was good fun. And then like the camaraderie that his dad had, with his guys and and all that. That was I thought that got me a little bit because I read a lot of stories. I've talked to a lot of these guys. I know some of them. The camaraderie is similar to like people who have been in war, because sometimes some of these people get killed, just like in the movie. I mean, that happens. And so like, the camaraderie that this guy had, for his guys, I mean, I could connect to that. And when they would brass in and out, so that little token that he hung up on the board, that's called brassing in and out. That's how they would count who's in and out of the mine. And everybody had a number like that. And so that's very accurate. And the fact that he kept the brass from the guy that got killed, I mean, that means a lot. That's crazy, and so that was really cool, yeah.
I was going to ask Tyler, I keep harping on the fact that the movie was to, things happen just to happen, in my opinion, in this, and they weren't as organic as I wished. But I was going to say one of the moments I did love was when the first collapse happened. They pulled a pillar, or whatever the heck it was that you were describing.
I don't know what exactly happened. Yeah.
Well, something collapsed, and they all got out, and they're up at the top. And I would say it was probably the only moment that I thought wasn't forced. It felt organic or whatever. As Jake Gyllenhaal's character Homer comes up, and everyone got out of the mine, and it's because of his dad. And his dad's the one that kind of saved the day. His dad is the foreman. Is that what is his role? He's like the lead, he's or like the foreman. He's in charge of all these guys' lives, basically.
He's like the shift boss.
He's the shift boss, but because this is such a dangerous thing, he is in charge of these guys' lives, basically. Yeah. At the end of the day, he's in charge of their lives, and so Homer walks up.
What they call a walking boss out east. I don't know that terminology. I don't think was walking boss. I don't think that terminology was used out west, but he was their shifter. That's the term that we use out here for somebody like him. We would have been the shifter. So he would have been on surface, and then he would have gone down into the mine and checked everybody's heading and shit, and made sure that they knew what they were doing, if they had any problems, if check their fucking grade lights and shit, that kind of stuff. And then like you saw him, he was all, his office was in his house. And so if there was a problem, he had a direct line. He could talk to people and stuff. So
yeah. So like I think they drove that home a little bit too hard and forced the fact that he was like the captain and the savior of all these men. I liked it. I liked the aspect of it, and it's true. Like he is responsible for their lives. But that first scene that I was trying to describe is, I think, the only strong moment in the film character-wise, because I love how, Homer walks up and his dad saved the day by pulling the guy out after the roof collapsed on him and the guy almost died, and they're all like huddled around making sure everybody's okay. And Homer's like, "Oh, that's my dad." And then all of a sudden, once the energy and everything falls in the scene, his dad's like, "You could have killed everybody in that mine and don't ever come back here again." And you basically just told the guy like you're an idiot and you could have killed this whole entire organization, and then shoves him off. And then all of a sudden the camera goes back to Homer and he's like, "That's my dad." And it's like, I love that. I actually really love that scene because I did too. Because there was the energy and stuff there. You felt the heart. You felt that, that Oscar Beatty type of character where it's like, oh, he cares for everyone. And Jake and Homer wants to be his dad. And then all of a sudden you see his true colors, but his true colors, while they seem brash, are also just like, dude, you could have killed this whole entire team down there. And one little screw up. And so like, I was going to ask you, like, was that also like you said, mining's dangerous. So it's just like, that spoke to me because it seemed very real. Yeah. It didn't seem forced. It felt very organic that his character would have like outlashed like that.
That was really believable. I mean, like, I've never worked for a mine directly, but I know a bunch of people closely that have, and that's something that that I'm passionate about. Especially a shifter like that that is really cares, like somebody, because he strikes me, because he said, you can start, you'll have my, remember later in the movie, he says, oh, you can have my job one day, and usually those guys start at the bottom. And so they will have done everything. That's how they get those jobs in mining. Like I said, I'm not sure. I would imagine it's the same in coal that it is in hard rock, but usually you start at the bottom and you do everything, and then eventually you end up in the management positions, especially as you get older. And these old timers, it was really sad. Like in the West, as you get older, like you get rocked up, which means you get silicosis or you get fucked up or whatever, and so you can't really mine anymore. But you have all this knowledge, and so usually you'll go into like a supervisory type position. But a lot of those guys have seen a lot, and they care for these guys and stuff, and they understand safety, and so they would freak out like that, and like when he freaked out about that, like I just like could relate to that, because you just like you're stoked that everyone is okay and that they got out and all that kind of stuff, and then after, as soon as that fades, you're just like, you fucking idiot, like, and I would be like that. Like I would have just lost my mind at this guy, depending on like how bad his safety violation was that led to that accident, because you just harp on guys like constantly, like, don't take shortcuts, and they know, and it's just it's just an endless source of frustration. And now I'm speaking because I've been not in a mine, but I've been a manager of guys in a shop, and it's like, they want to get stuff done. I get it. I've been there. I was at that level, but then they want to cut corners because that's how you get more volume, but then you're risking stuff. And so it's like, it's just this endless dance. And so I totally related to him when he got pissed off at that guy. Is like, yeah, that's pretty relatable.
Yeah.
I like the way that scene plays out from the dad's perspective, but I actually find that scene to be the weakest part of the movie. And it's because of Jake Gyllenhaal's line.
That's my dad.
Well, and I can see that. And see, that's what's interesting.
It's not for his reaction though. It's specifically for Jake Gyllenhaal's line. And it's because when he walks up and he says, "That's my dad," and then him saying that, I was like, oh, it's gonna turn. He's gonna get mad at the guy. He's gonna fire the guy. And so you see it coming. And then he does.
Too predictable.
And so you see it all happening, and it already played out in my head. And then the whole time I'm just like, Jake, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. And then he says, "That's my dad." And I was like, oh, there it is. There it is.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So the scene was nice, but the line ruined it for me. The line was the Oscar bait type stuff right there.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you, and it definitely strengthens what I'm saying. Like, this whole entire movie is just super formulaic, but I feel like out of the whole entire film, the way that scene played out was so organic, in the sense that it's like, if he would have been like, oh man, we all made it out of the mine and we're all safe, let's go have dinner, then that would have been like so Hollywood, like, oh, it's a happy moment. But the fact that it's just like, okay, we're all safe, you're an idiot, you're fired, get out of here, you could kill us all. Like, I love that, where it's just like, it just took his character and really showed you like who he was. And
well, and I like hearing your opinions, because like, I'm the outsider in the film stuff, and so like my perspective was way different, and I'm watching it for a way different reason, kind of. And so I like, but I could see how that was a lead in, and you're like, really?
And it's like, even one of those things where like it may have actually even happened that way. Like, he may have even literally said that to his friends in that moment if it all played out. And it's one of those things where like, I heard one of the worst critiques ever of Hotel Rwanda was like, oh yeah, it's just too cheesy that they all lived at the end. And it's like, well, that's what happened. So would you like us to rewrite the story with them all dying just so it's more Hollywood for you? And so like, even if it did play out that way, it just feels Hollywood. You know what I mean? And so that's where I was like, oh, that line is just too much. But to your guys' point, it is a great scene how the dad reacts. Yeah. So it's one of those. It's like a bad line and an amazing scene. And the bad line works. It's just, for me, it kind of killed it. You know what I mean?
The 90s was pretty synonymous for doing script writing, where they would do something like that, where they would say the same word or the same line 3 different times. And that was just that. Like like, that's my dad. That's my dad. That's my dad. And that's just how it was just like a tool that they used in the 90s a lot. And it just, for me, it never landed.
I haven't even thought
Um,
about it that way, but now that you're saying it, I'm like flashing through scenes where that has happened, and you're absolutely right. I don't know that it lands for me very often either.
Backtracking, it does make sense. Brandon, you said, like, they've published the book and then all of a sudden they're making the movie. So, like, it makes sense if they were just very quickly plugging and chugging it into, like, the formula of a
They probably
90-page
owned the rights
script or
before the book was finished and everything. You know what I mean?
whatever it may be. But it definitely seemed like, scene A, B, C. Okay, done. We're good to go. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No risks or anything like that. Just
yeah.
straight up. This is for award season.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't.
Well,
I don't know, but it felt like it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Movies, Film, Cinema, where we take 10 minutes talking about one line.
Hey, it's what you
No, I
got to
love
do,
it,
man. It's what you got to do.
Hey,
It can change the entire movie.
Yep.
I was gonna say that's what I love about you guys. We do deep dives on stuff that just like, hey, did you guys see that one podcast? Yeah, they talked about 10 minutes about, yeah, that's my dad.
You're an idiot. That's not how I read it.
Yeah.
And then like whatever like one of the most important lines is, it's like, that was okay.
Yeah,
Anyway.
whatever. That was a throwaway.
Yeah.
Well, just to cap what you guys just said,
You get no input.
I was gonna say, I enjoyed that line. I thought it was funny because I've seen my dad do stuff like that. You know, him being in the military, him yelling at somebody, then I'll come over to somebody and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" I was like, "That's my dad." So
You know what? I can see it coming from you much more organically than it happened in that scene. I feel like.
yeah. Well, one thing that, like, even in the opening sequences, besides, seeing kind of like the tenacity of Homer's father, and then Homer himself, we get to see him with him in like the football scene, him and his brother, and like his brother's friend. He's like, "Hey, go easy on him," right? And Homer just keeps coming back and back and back and back and back after he keeps getting knocked down over and over again by this football player. So we can kind of see Homer in his father a little bit, and vice versa, that both of these guys are, they're hard chargers. They don't like to give up very easily. I thought that was also, to Bill's point, a little bit cliche, but I thought it worked a little well there.
I feel like it works well to show that he's not athletic the way the brother is, but
Yeah.
he also isn't like a wimp that's going to give up easily on anything. And so, like, as cheesy of a scene as it is, and I do find that scene very cheesy as well, I do think it serves its purpose. So it's one of those, it's like, do you want to try to do this differently and risk doing it either poorly or even more cheesy than we already did, or do we do it with this football sequence? And so in that sense, like I said, cheesy as it is, I feel like it at least works.
Yeah, it's hard for me to I'm torn in the sense that it's, again, I try to put myself in the mindset of, like, for one, this is a movie made in the 90s, and two, it's a period piece of a time when, like, being a football star was like your ticket to getting out of like a small podunk town or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to, on one hand, realize like this isn't necessarily a cliche storyline, but it is kind of cliche because it's been done a lot for that time period. But it's also like, that's just kind of how it was back then. Be a football star, move up, get out of the small town. But again, yeah, I agree. Like it almost seemed like it was a forced character plot. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is just a continuation of kind of the beginning in general, where it's just a lot of showing more than it is telling. So they just kind of show you that, hey, this guy's like this guy and that guy's like that guy, and he just doesn't give up. So one of the next few scenes that we kind of see, which is the catalyst for this movie, is they're all outside, looking at Sputnik, and you can kind of see that the kids could care less, the whole time until actually Sputnik does come over, and then they're like, in fleeting, type of thing. But what I also really enjoyed was the like all the parents, and which were real concerns of people at the time. They're like, oh, they're taking pictures of everything from up there. They can see all our bases, and it just it's kind of interesting to kind of hear similar things that you hear from your folks, and nowadays where there's some new technology that comes out and they don't understand it, and then they hyperbolize like what could be like, oh well, they're tracking everything and they're doing everything right now, and it was kind of a endearing scene. Have you guys had any experiences like that similar, where your parents says something, you're like, yeah, okay?
Not off the top of the head, but like
Yeah.
that is, like you're saying, it is a very like every generation of humans. I guess we get like some sort of technology or whatever that goes up, and we see it, and then it's always like, oh, they're tracking us, or oh, they got your info, or whatever it is, and it might just be it's just a satellite for tracking weather. You know what I mean? Like it's every generation I think has that like conspiracy theory or worry or mindset of what are they actually doing? What's it doing up there? And it's kind of a little bit of a tangent, but I don't know. Have you guys ever seen starlight up in the sky, like with the naked eye?
Just in
You mean
general?
like in the
Light
desert?
from stars?
Just,
Yeah.
like on the ground looking up, not Starlink.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Have you
Oh.
ever seen Starlink in the sky?
No.
well, I've
No.
seen satellites going by, but I don't know what they were.
Okay, so it's weird. Like a couple of years ago, I was under the influence with with family and friends, and we're out at a beachside Airbnb, and we're little sheets to the wind, and all of a sudden you just see like a row, like a perfect line of like 20 dots. So if you can imagine in the movie, how it's just that one little, it's a satellite. We've all seen a little satellite. It's one satellite, but times that by 20, and it's just like a line. And again, we're all like gone, and we're like, what is that? We're like watching in the sky. We're like, what is this thing? And like, we're smarter than that, so we're just not. Our minds didn't immediately go to aliens, but we're like, what is that? And then we had to like think about it for a second. And so that was, I guess, when I was watching that scene, it took me right back to that moment when we saw Starlink when we were stoned out of our minds. But yeah, it's having those moments of just looking up at the sky and seeing like I was right there with Jake Gyllenhaal. And
That happened to me. We were out in the desert, just sitting on the back of a pickup truck drinking beer, and it was just north of Groom Air Force Base. And there were guys. There's always people flying around out there, and we'd watch them go by, and they'd go supersonic, and we're just like, woo! And you could see their afterburners and like, I don't know.
At nighttime or daytime or?
Oh yeah, it was like 1:00 in the morning.
No, cool.
Yeah, it was cool. We got buzzed the first time I was ever up there. We got buzzed by a guy, and I know he was doing it to with us. He had to have seen us. We were the only vehicle on that road in the middle of like one of those, like it's all basin and range out there in Nevada. So we were in the middle of this basin, and he had to have seen us from like 10 miles away, and it was like, oh, these poor bastards, and gets down pretty low. And I had just gotten out of the truck to go pee. And my buddy was standing by the driver. I wasn't driving. He was driving. And so this guy.
Are you driving or are you peeing?
Both.
Cool.
So I was just starting to walk back to the truck, and there's just like an explosion. Went flying everywhere, and we just like got down, and then we saw him going by, and they're just like, you motherfucker. But it was funny as hell. We laughed about it for like 15 minutes, but it scared the shit out of us.
Similar thing happened, was it 4th of July's ago. We were paddleboarding on a lake up here in Washington, and it was a cool lake where it was kind of a long lake, and then it had a little bend to it, and we're just chilling, drinking some beers at this moment, and then all of a sudden I look over in the distance and I can see an F-14 just round a bend. I'm like, is that a jet? And it looked, because like the distance wise, you're like, it looks low, but he's probably turning around. And he did the same thing. He buzzed everyone in that lake, and it was I don't know, like a couple 100 yards above our head. Like it was low, and he was cranking that afterburner like as he went over us, and everybody in our boards are just like sloshing around in the lake and stuff like that. And you could tell like he was. It was only one of them, so I don't know if he was like part of an air show or something like that. But you can tell it was like his normal flight path or his normal turnaround. Like he knew. He knew, and it was 4th of July, so he figured it was probably a loaded up lake. So
Nice. Well, I say I do enjoy the scene in general, and I also kind of enjoy the fact that I miss the fact that growing up in a smaller town, just being able to look up at the sky and being able to see stars, something you kind of miss living in the city. Um, One thing that I thought Bill would love to share maybe a story about. He gets inspired by Sputnik, and then he's like, "I'm going to build a rocket." Right? Well, he ends up building basically a bomb, and he puts it on his mother's fence, and he explodes it. um, I figured, and I don't have any specific knowledge of anything, but I figured, Bill, you'd probably have some story from your shenanigans from blowing something up from you and Brian.
I don't know, pick one. Yeah, Brandon and I grew up with Brandon didn't light stuff on fire, but me and my buddy Brian, we definitely blew stuff up and lit stuff on fire. And now he's a pro amateur fireworks builder. So, he went on and continued to build explodey things. No, you know what? I was actually going to bring up that scene as another scene that I actually just didn't like. So it's funny that you're pinpointing me. I like that they got blown up because it was, for all the listeners who haven't seen the movie, they basically take what's equivalent of putting like a bottle rocket into this fence, but it's a rocket that they made themselves. So they got the formula and everything wrong. And it doesn't leave the fence. It just blows up the fence and they all get knocked back and there's shrapnel everywhere. And I laughed and it was great. And that part I loved. But then the mom comes running outside to see if everyone's okay. And she goes, "We waited for months for Hank or whatever his name is to come over and put in that fence and you just blow it up." And like, I wanted her to like get pissed or whatever the heck it is. And then she just kind of goes, "Kids, at least you're okay." She goes back inside to make dinner. And it's just like, no mother would ever just be like, "I'm glad you're okay," and then walk away. They would be like, "Well, I'm glad your face isn't blown off now." And then get pissed. Like half the fence was gone. And she was just,
Bill, you remember I said I had 3 sentences and I didn't remember why I wrote them. Well, one of them was, "What about the ass whooping?" And it's
yeah,
for that
exactly.
scene right there.
Like, where was it? And I get it. Like, it kind of makes sense now that we're talking about it. It makes sense that the city owns everything, so it's like that really didn't come out of her pocket or whatever. But
Yeah,
she has the line of like, "We waited so long for it to be put in,"
but it was a
and so
white picket fence, and if we're talking the American dream, she's probably pissed that he just ruined it.
exactly. And it's just like, monetarily or not, she's like should be annoyed that like she's a housewife, right? So she's like proud of her surroundings and her house,
Hmm.
and it was literally just like, "Glad you're not dead," and then walks back inside, and it's like, ah, I wanted more. I wanted.
You want to see the dad blow up? Not physically, like on the kids.
That's one of those scenes that actually kind of made me like their mom because, I guess coming from like a background where, yeah, you would have gotten ass whooping for that, and the mom was like more understanding. Was that realistic? I don't know, because like you have to remember that her husband is a mind shifter. Like there's a lot of tragedy and like that kind of stuff. You're just like, did you get hurt? No? Okay.
Good point.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's the kind of lens that I viewed it through. And I just was like, okay. And not only did I just think it made her character more fun. But it also, I could kind of see that, but I see what you guys are saying too. Yeah, it is
Well,
unrealistic.
I
in
really
that
like that perspective
light.
on it though, because that to me makes me like it a little bit more because it was almost like too cheesy because you could see it. It was the writers pitting her as the good cop with the dad as the bad cop, and so like
That's true.
it's once again where you see the cheese kind of shining through of the story, but with your perspective that you just added there, it actually softens it a little better. So I actually like it a little bit more under that perspective.
Well, and I agree with you guys too. So I like, again, like we were saying, like I was saying before, I like having these alternate perspectives. Like, oh, I didn't
Yeah.
think about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think subconsciously maybe I didn't care for it too much because kids back in that era would get in trouble or get reprimanded or whatever, but at the same time population was a lot smaller. Everybody knew everybody in town, so it's just like when stuff like that would happen, kids were either given a stern talking to or whatever, and then they just went on and did kid things, whereas nowadays it's like you're going to jail or you're doing whatever. Yeah. Or like the repercussions are a lot more like severe nowadays because it's not a small town and it's not like
Got like a very Tom Sawyer feel to it.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe subconsciously that was my other like, let into them, like really, like make them put in a new fence or something. I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, it just
That's the
I
rest of the
like that they
movie.
got yeah,
They're just
just
like
them
making
paying
money
for
for the fence.
yeah. So yeah, I like to come full circle, Brandon. I like that they got blowed up, but then I didn't like the repercussion or the response to it.
Well, how come I got in trouble when that happened?
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of like that's what the
Bill's still bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I got in trouble. That stupid kid should get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly how I see
That's what
that.
it is.
Well, the the author of the book writes that actually did happen. That his mother was waiting, and it wasn't like the outside fence that you guys see there. It was actually like a garden fence for like a gardening area that he put it on, and like she had waited for like 6 months for like the company carpenter to like come by. And he goes, I don't know why I put it there. He goes, probably was a stupid idea in retrospect, but he did blow it up, and she was just like, like kids type of thing. So I think that issue of that resolve is like if it was like a little picket fence for like a garden that you put like out in your yard versus like that's the fence that we use to separate the yards. You know what I mean?
Nah, that's a
Like
good point. Yeah.
I could see that there's a difference of butt whoopings.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. See, like still, I would say like maybe like thematically and like Hollywoodized, like script wise, it would have been stronger if it was her garden, and it was like her prized joy, and like then she would
Yeah.
have whooped instead of yeah.
Well,
yeah,
then the neighbor, remember the neighbor lady was like, oh my god, and then she's like, it's okay, Mrs. So and so, you know. I don't know. I thought that was endearing too. Like the mom was like diffusing the whole situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Just
Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so this shortly after this, the movie kind of does a really good job of like changing from showing to telling at this point. And this is when Homer starts writing letters to Werner von Braun, and kind of it is like a pseudo way that they kind of sneak in some narration. And I really enjoyed that the fact that they that Homer kind of like punches up what the reality of like what things are. Like he's like, oh yeah, everybody supports me, and my dad is the best, and he's just trying to like make Werner von Braun like his pen pal basically. Which I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he was a he was of a particular certain party during World War II, and
I
we
know
said
that, and I know that like a kid wouldn't really like understand that. I'm sure they knew, but like you
yeah,
wouldn't really like understand like Operation Paperclip stuff. But the whole time I'm
ooh,
like,
yes,
oh, he's writing to, you know what I mean?
yep,
I just I understand it, but it just I don't know. I didn't like it.
yeah,
I
for the
understand. It's not like I didn't think it was accurate or something. I just was like, you're writing to a Nazi.
right, exactly.
You're
Well,
writing to a Nazi.
it plays better nowadays, or even back then that people didn't know who Werner von Braun was. But for people who don't know, Tyler hit it right on the head. Operation Paperclip. We after World War II, we were like, hey, these really smart Nazi people. We don't want them to fall in Russian hands, and
Nazi scientists. Let's be not just people. Just we're not just grabbing random Nazis here.
well, there was for
Useful
Operation
ones.
Paperclip. Yeah, I was going to say they grabbed quote unquote the useful ones, but a lot of
Yeah.
different Nazis from different aspects of
BMW and
the world.
Haribo.
Yeah. But yeah, we brought him over to America, and we're like, hey, here's the citizenship as long as you do stuff for us. So, which was
Build our rockets.
yeah, build our
Yeah.
rockets. So, but Homer, he's in search of trying to find basically the answers to rocketry, and he's kind of at a crossroads, and he has this idea. He's sitting there at lunch, and he's looking over at the weird kid, and he walks over, and he strikes up a conversation. And I just love how like you can kind of tell in the background that just like all the heads are just like, what is he doing? And then as soon as he sits down and starts talking to to the other rocket boy there, um the whole school's like a buzz, like, oh my god, I can't believe he sat down with him, and and it really kind of made sense to me that like, okay, there's nothing going on in this town, like they're, it's the you called it the shifter, is that right, Tyler?
Yeah,
The
yeah, his
shifter's son.
position.
Yeah, the shifter's son is talking to probably like the most socially outcast child there within the school. But I mean, this is really like they really start kind of like buckling down and like kind of solidifying as a group, and they're trying to like come up with different ideas and ways to um, build these rockets as they were, and trying to just really like break down as much as the science as they can from this newfound knowledge they have in this kid. And he's like, what do you guys know about rockets? And he's like, I know everything, like tell me everything that you want to know. And they really do a good job of collaboration. And he's like, you got to do this and got to do that. And I really enjoyed the kid getting really excited about, like, he's like, oh my god, and then this happened and this happened, and I was like, I can appreciate the nerd brain tickling there. Just how
Well,
Tyler
there's the
was.
one part where he gets all excited and he starts like yelling things, and then the
Yeah,
other dude who like I don't remember the character's name, but the one that takes the longest to like warm to him is just
yeah,
like, "Cool it, Quentin." Like the
yeah.
way he said it is so good. I love it. But I also liked how those guys kind of like warmed to him fairly quickly. They didn't spend too much time like focusing on the difference between these kids accepting the nerdy guy into the group. They kind of just rolled over that, which I feel like that's a space of time that a lot of lesser writing in movies would have focused on. It's like those cheesy plot points that don't mean anything to the story but seem to add drama. Where, oh, these kids aren't gonna like this kid because he's nerdy. I like that they skipped over that. Like, we don't need that. Get to the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree.
one of those scenes that you guys were talking about, scenes that you thought were cheesy. One that I thought was cheesy is when they're watching Homer as he goes over to sit down with Quentin, and like everyone's like waiting with bated breath to see if he sits down with the guy, and then because it's like breaking some kind of social convention, like, oh, he sat down, now we can't talk to him, or I don't know. I just thought that was lame. And it's like, yeah, kids are like that, but it's not, the whole cafeteria isn't gonna, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but that just came off really cheesy to me. Like, do we really need, like, we know that everybody thinks that he's a nerd and they don't like him and stuff. Do we need this, like, this much,
See, I see
like,
both sides of
extra?
it there. I definitely agree with you, Tyler, on that, that it's like a little bit too cheesy. But I also see Brandon's side of it too, where like if this kid is the shift boss's son, everyone in the town would know who he is, and he's also the younger brother of this star football player. So even if he's not popular
That's true.
himself, he has this like
He's being
reputation, I
watched.
guess. Yeah. So then everybody sees him sit down with the nerdy kid, and then once again taking into consideration the time period, that reputation probably was a bit stronger than it would be today. So I kind of see both sides of it, where it's like a super cheesy scene, but also it's again where I feel like it's a cheesy scene that works to send the message they were trying
I
to
was gonna
send.
say I see, having adult eyes, we see it as really cheesy, but like if you weren't in high school or if you were a younger person watching this, you'd be like, oh, is that how high school is, or you know what I mean? Because there's no frame of reference. So it's I think it was a definitely a dramatized scene, but I just thought it was kind of fun that they did that.
So going back and kind of jumping ahead, I think this is why, in my opinion, it was Oscar baity and weak in the sense that it's like, again, jumping ahead, he's the one out of the group that they're like, ah, you got to go to the science fair to represent this thing, and yes, he is the driving force between all of this, but it's like they, to John's credit, they don't really need to write about how he became rocket smart. They kind of show it over the years, but at the same time, he knows nothing about rockets and basically leans in on Quentin for all the knowledge of rockets. Like, Quentin is the scientist. He is the one that knows how to do rockets. So it's like, because this movie was about Homer and centered around him, they made him the star and the hero, and he is the Rocket Boys. But in all reality, he was basically just the foreman keeping the thing moving forward type of thing, whereas like Quentin's really the rocket guy. So I think that was just like they put this scene in the cafeteria to show that Quentin's a nerd and Homer is the cool boy, even though he's not, because he's not really a jock and like a football star. He is the shifter's son or whatever. So like to me, it was just weak that it's just like, well, you got this pretty boy that needs the nerd to make the rockets, and now we have rockets. So it was just, it seemed too forced, and they didn't really. But at the end of the day, it's just like, again, to your credit, John, if they really had to dive into how they all work together as a team, then it would just make so many extra scenes and a much longer script that would just get drawn out or be written weak. So it's like, how else do you do that? But at the same time, it's like, it was kind of that nerd and jock trope where it's just like, now we're all best friends, even though we're cut from different cloth type of thing. And
Yeah.
it just fell short for me, but that's why they put it in.
A 90s movie depicting an earlier time period. It's full of that cheesy stuff.
Yeah, but to your credit, again, it's a good thing that they didn't really like live in it. They just kind of glossed over it because they didn't have to, and it would have been terrible if they did like really live in the whole like, oh, he's a nerd and gets picked on by everybody type of thing. Like they showed a little bit of it, and then we moved on from it because that's not the story. So
yeah, exactly.
They did it justice in that vein, but.
So one thing that is kind of like a running theme within the movie, at least, that's different from what actually happened in real life. So the guys get together, they go to the company machinist and say, "Hey, can you help weld this washer on here?" And they end up using company time, and they shoot a rocket on company property, and they get in trouble with that. In actual reality, the author writes about saying that there was a lot of times that they kind of like turned the other cheek, and there was a lot of times that the machinists on staff would actually help them anytime that they wanted. So per the movie, and this is another formulaic argument. This is the push and pull that this movie needs is like, well, you can't do it here, but how am I supposed to persevere and stuff like that. I thought that was a interesting choice, at least. The other thing that they end up having to do, because they shoot this rocket and accidentally shoot this rocket towards I guess the dad's house, or not house, office rather. The dad tells them, "Hey, you can't be on company property and you have to go off site," which actually did happen. And they end up going to, I think they refer to it as a slack dump. And maybe Tyler, you can kind of confirm that with me. But they go to a slack dump, like this like area where they have just like, I guess, like the leftover process of like the coal mining stuff. And it's just like a perfectly flat area where it was perfect for them to like launch their rockets.
What I think they called it was a slag dump, like SLAG. And
okay.
that would have been, that's what it sounded like to me. And I know that is like, if you have a smelter nearby or something like that, where you would, melt the like processed ore down into ingots or into, stuff that could be transported or whatever, you get like slag, like all the dross and shit that, is, I don't know much about, smelting, but it's just like leftover junk, and then they would truck that all out somewhere and dump it. And you just have these big, they're like waste rock piles. Like here, in the West, you like see, old mines, and they'll have like, you can identify them because they'll be like, like a trailing of waste rock coming down. It's like that, but these are like dumps that would have been like around like a foundry or a smelter or something like that, where they would dump the garbage that was a byproduct of smelting stuff.
Oh, okay. One thing I was going to say, because you said the byproduct. I noticed that because obviously it's coal and they're like black. I just noticed that like the ground, it was all black. So that kind of lends to kind of what you're saying. Then is like just like kind of like the leftover stuff that they're refining, and the slag.
It could have been just waste rock from the coal mines. I mean, like I don't know if they could, because terms, it's weird because it depends on the industry. But like one term on one side will mean something else. So like I know what slag means for hard rock, but if like for coal, it could mean like coal waste rock. I don't know. So like you could be absolutely right. It could be like coal waste rock or something. But my guess was, when I heard them say slag, I was like, well, it's probably a slag dump from a smelter or something. But yeah, yep.
Yeah. Well, their new slag dump or whatever that they have, they
big flat area.
The big flat land over there. They call it Camp Colwood, like after Cape Canaveral type of thing. So the I guess the gentleman who takes over for who we talks about, the Russian guy who plays every Russian in the movie. the new African American machinist. His name is Mr. Bolden. I guess he was a former Red Tail pilot, but like one of the first rockets that they shoot, and it, like shoots right past him, and he's like, "Oh man, that thing brought me back all the way back to World War II."
He looks like he wants it to happen again.
Yeah, I was gonna say he
Yeah.
was just like he was just like, "Ooh," like the rush to him like happening
Yeah.
was like, "What the heck's going on there?"
This man's about to re-enlist.
Yeah. So yeah, this like really starts like the antithesis of like a really fun montage that I enjoyed of them like launching a rocket explosion, launching a rocket explosion, launching a rocket explosion. And I love how they segmented it like, oh, that one went up, bang, crap, bang, 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 bang. And then, oh, that one went up, bang. And then they're like, we got
That's another
one.
part that like took me out of it when they're watching it and the camera is on them like through the glass on their little like safety box or whatever, and Jake Gyllenhaal's like, "We got one," and then it blows up, but you can see it blow up like above the ground, like because you can see the reflection of the explosion. So his like, "We got one" is cheesy, and then you see the explosion happen not where it should be if it had already done what it did. And so like that part, it kind of took me out of it just for a split second, but I was like, I see what they did there. All right, I'll
Yeah.
give it to him.
Which makes me like wonder if there's just like there's some like pyrotechnics guy waiting for him to say one, and then like
Yeah.
just hit the button.
Well, do you know the pyrotechnic in Tropic Thunder?
Oh yeah, the big one, yeah.
No. Why am I forgetting what the actor's name is? He plays
Danny McBride.
Yeah. That's kind of how pyrotechnics were on film and kind of still are to this day. Just crazy dudes with like they used to have what's called a nail board, and it's literally like a board with nails sticking in it and wires attached to the different explosions that are supposed to happen at a timed manner. And all it is them taking another nail or another piece of metal and connecting. And so like if there's a huge like line of explosions, they would just go brrrr. And so it like to what you're talking about, John, it probably, or Brandon, it probably was like a dude on a button just like get it or whatever, you know what I mean, or the timing was off or whatever it may be, or maybe they, because it's 1999, so maybe they comped that shot in on top of the glass or something like that.
Yeah. To me, it looked like they had something staged there, like not a moving rocket or anything like that, and it was just too high off the ground, and they didn't anticipate the reflection. At least that's what it looked like to me. I was like, whatever, it's fine.
that was also a day where you had to rely on dailies. Dailies are everything was done on film back in the day, kids. So you'd have to send in to get developed and watch dailies. So they didn't have like instant playback like we do now, where you can just pull up the clip and film it again. So they had to rely a lot of times on, they could have seen that in camera and the performances and everything was there and they had to move on, or they didn't see it in camera until they got to the editing floor. And that's where pickups come in if the budget can afford it. But
honestly, I feel like I was watching the movie and just enjoying it so much, like forgetting that we were going to talk about it later. And at that moment, I probably kicked on my thinking cap, like, I need to pick apart something here. And then that happened, and I was like, I got something.
Yeah. Like your ass whooping line.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm enjoying this too much. I need to critique something. Hang on a second.
Yeah. Well, after the montage, they're kind of like at a moment where they're stuck, and they go back to the school, and the teacher finds them a book based on rocketry. And this is actually also based on a true part where the author writes about, and the author says, the librarian and the teacher, they spent weeks and weeks and weeks, and they finally found one. And then that kind of like really within the story, as far as like the writing was concerned, that's where like they actually took off. Before then, they just kind of were like amateur, rocketeers. And like after that, like it opened up a lot of doors for them. So I thought that was kind of a really cool, like little nugget of truth within the story as well. Because they, in the story at least, because they are better at making these rockets now, they shoot a rocket that goes up super, super high, and they get blamed for a fire. And that fire turns out, they're like, oh, this is going to be happening in a town. I think, was it like Weston or something like that was what the other name of the town, like happened in Weston. And so police not even from kind of the area. They're like the state police, and they're like, we found a rocket and it was you guys. This is also based on a true story. The kids had to basically prove that it wasn't their rocket. The proof was actually that they found their rocket, and they had to show that the rocket to the police basically, and just say, hey, we have our rocket. So that part is true. What
And to kind of bounce
happened?
back off of what Bill was saying earlier,
Yeah.
that was kind of the turning point in Homer becoming the scientist instead of relying on Quentin anymore, which is what led him to go on to work for NASA later to train astronauts and everything like that. So proving his own innocence so they could keep doing the rocket stuff basically motivated him to learn the math and everything, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think my problem with all that though is they didn't show it. They just there was he needed to prove his innocence, and then he proved his innocence with math instead of like, and I guess that's probably a moot point because it's like, how do you make that entertaining? Like, oh, he's learning math, it's cool. You know what I
See,
mean? Like, but it's just 1 minute he's relying on his team to build these rockets, and they're all building rockets, and then the next minute he's in the coal mine,
yeah,
just living out his life, and then the next minute he's using high sophisticated geometry, algebra, all that stuff in order to prove like he's innocent. So it's just like, it was a little bit of a stretch for me, but in the time allotted.
for me, that's all wrapped up in the line that he says when she gives him the book. When she's like, I know this is all above your head and everything, he just goes, oh, whatever, I'll learn the math. And like, that's all summed up for me in that line because I've
Not
been that
believable.
person before. See, I don't know. See, I've been that way before. I was a youngster wanting to be a shredder of the guitar, and I had no means to learn it. And so eventually I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach myself. Sat down and I did it. And now all these years later, I'm shredding. And that's a simpler form of math.
Yeah, as someone who also, like, I got up to advanced calculus in college, math is not something that, like, music and instruments is something that you can organically learn, and if you have a mentor, great, you'll get there sooner. But music is just in nature, it's part of us and stuff like that. Whereas math is like hard and strict, and there's a right answer and a wrong answer. So like you kind of need that years of mentorship, or like having a professor actually teach you what you're doing wrong and stuff like that. So for me, it was just like, you can't learn math that fast.
Sure.
that kind of math to like, and maybe you can, different time. They didn't have TikTok and all this other stuff like taking up their time. So I don't know. I'm just being cynical and a curmudgeon, I guess, when it comes to the fact that it's like, you didn't learn that math that quickly from a book. I mean,
I was going to say Newton invented trigonometry when he tried to figure out if the moon was falling. So there's that.
he also didn't have TikTok dances to distract him. So
True. Hey, neither did Homer.
He didn't know. Yeah.
A squared plus B squared hypotenuse.
Yeah.
Well, as you guys kind of alluded to within your story, Homer ends up going into the mine, taking his dad's place because he gets injured, and he self-decides because his brother's got a scholarship, or what have you. One line that stuck out to me because of the mom and just the way that she is and her accent. And John, we talked about, I think it was last episode, where you're like, when people just say certain lines and they just say them like in a funny way, they just stick out to you. When she's just sitting there like kind of almost comatose, like staring at the wall, she's like, if he would have died, I told him I wouldn't have shed a tear, or something like that. And that just kind of reminded me of like just really like strong Southern woman. It's like, I didn't even care. I
feel like that was probably the most believable line in the entire movie. With her saying that right there. It's like, yep.
I liked that line because I could see her being somebody that would, she's thought about this, know, and he's probably run up against, disasters and stuff before. And, she probably has community with the other wives that are, married to people that work in the mine that are in as much danger. And, she seems like a smart person. She knows what she knows what she got into, and she probably, that's her coping mechanism, is like, I told him if he gets croaked doing that, like I'm not gonna shed a tear, But also you can see that she's like the face that she looks traumatized, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
like
like
the
both of
defensive
those
shell.
things. Yeah, it's like both of those things like simultaneously. I mean, that was just the way that I saw it. But then it reminded me of this, but you guys also reminded me of it. It's just like, it was pandemonium. All I could think of is Caroline still has my casserole dish.
What's that from?
I don't remember.
Even better.
I think it's like a Jeff Foxworthy bit or something.
I hope it's something from your personal life that you're just remembering as a movie line.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think so, though. I think it's like from a Jeff Foxworthy bit is
That
what
sounds
that's
about
from.
right.
Totally rent free in Tyler's brain.
I don't know, but I don't know. Some of the Southern stuff, like, it will cue some of these other things in my head, regardless if it has any connection to it, you know?
It is so, like, I love watching glimpses into the past like this, even if it is Hollywoodized, because then it makes you think, like, it's so nuts living in the times that we are with just how connected the world is. Divorce rates are crazy. People are in and out of relationships because there are that many more people and there is that many more opportunities to just get out. Whereas if you put yourself in like the shoes of back then, it's small town. It's all they know. The coal pays for the whole town. It's just crazy to think that it's just like you'll go your whole life knowing just this town and being married to this person, even though they irritate you day in and day out, just because it's your life and you have kids and a family. And it's just nuts, like the black and white comparison compared to then and now.
Well, and that also reminded me of my mom. My mom was from a small town in Indiana, and she hated it. You know, it was probably pretty similar to Homer, you know, and she just saw all of the general dynamics that they show in this movie. And she's like, I hate this. And she worked really hard, you know, to get out of there. And she went to college and all this stuff. And that was at a time when, you know, like, if women went to college, like, you could be a nurse or you could be a teacher. And that's pretty much it. And one of her grandmothers, so one of my great grandmothers, was a physics teacher as a woman, you know, and that was unheard of. And so, like, I think not only did she look to the past and see that, you know, oh, my, you know, grandma was able to do this, you know, I'm going to do this too. But like, it just reminded me of her, that like she grew up in that same scenario and was like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
This is terrible, you know? And then some people love it. You know, some people, it really works for them to be in that kind of community, because my cousin, she stayed there and she still lives there, you know? And so did, my uncle, my mom's brother, you know, he stayed there and married a gal, and they've lived there for 60 years. So,
yeah. So coming full circle to you bringing up this part of the movie, Brandon, is, yeah, I think it's one simple little line like that. That's a part of the movie that actually worked for me as well. Like there were parts of this movie that worked for me, and that's one where it's just like, it's so believable. One simple little line, one simple little delivery gives you all of what we were just talking about. Is small town. This is all she knows, but she doesn't want to, if it happens tomorrow and her husband's taken away from her, I'm out. Type of thing.
Yeah.
That reaction, in an odd way, now that I'm thinking about it, as we've reflected on it, kind of strengthens her kind of lesser reaction about the fence too. She's like, nobody died, whatever.
Yeah, take the whole house, blow up the whole house.
Take the husband.
Reason to get out of here.
He's the one who put us in this situation.
Yeah.
I was say one person who wanted to get out of there. It was the little lamb of Homer who wanted to get out of the coal mine. I found it funny. He was there for like less than a week, and he was like motivated to like. He's like, all right, I'm out of here. Like I'd rather do really hard math than sling coal.
Yeah.
And I like how the thing that made him realize that, at least in the movie's perspective of it, the thing that made him realize that is his dad being proud of him. His dad's like, boy, everybody says you're doing awesome. Let's go do this. He's all excited, and Homer's just like, this.
Yeah, because he sees the multiple decades of his life just being in that coal mine, just like,
he's just watching his future in his dad.
Yeah, nope, can't do
like,
it.
Nope.
Yeah, and that's when he says, "Oh, you'll have my job one day,"
Yep.
and all this stuff. Yeah,
That was probably
yeah.
the nail in the coffin right there, is him saying that, and Homer was like, "Nope, I'm done." He probably should have
Yeah.
saved that pep talk.
Homer proves his innocence. He gets out of the mine. He does his little math, like prove in front of everybody thing, and gets exonerated. He finally wins over the principal, John, as you had alluded to earlier in the podcast. You said he wins over individuals individually. Once he proves it to the principal, he's like, "We're going to have to re-roll you in school, and you're going to have to go to that science fair, so you're going to represent the school." He goes to the science fair. He like wins like either like the state or the regional, portion of it, and he goes to the national, you know, forgive me, national science fair. And this is part of the true story as well. He gets his like little cone thing that they make there. He gets that stolen when he goes to the national thing. He
The
said
nozzle.
the nozzle.
The
Yes,
nozzle,
correct.
Brandon.
You can call it what you want, son.
Noozle at the end of the hooze.
But anyways, in the National Science Fair, he noticed that like all the other kids, like they had brought trunks, they had brought things to kind of like stow their stuff away, and he just left everything there because he's like, where I come from, everybody just leaves their stuff out. We don't even have locks in our lockers for high school. So when he came back, somebody had stolen his nozzle, and he at the time, like before things were going on, he's like, "Oh, somebody just probably took it to shine it up or something like that." So it was kind of like a small town thinking, but it is also true in the story where he had called home and said, "Hey, I need to get another nozzle," and they were striking at the time. So his dad, being on his side, broke the strike for him in order to get them that nozzle. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I really enjoyed the scene where the mom and the dad are fighting, and she comes up to him. She's like, "I'll leave you if you don't, help their son, and you guys, don't stop this fighting or whatever." Then the husband's like, for the first time, you can kind of see him like have like some doubt, because he's usually a really confident man, and he's like, "Well, where would you go?"
I love that line.
And she has like nowhere to go and like think about, and they had their honeymoon in the same place, but she's like,
Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she like stomps out of the room, and like that's the first time we see the smile from him. He's like, "Yeah, I love that woman." So
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that's like one of the big differences from the movie comparatively to the book, Homer's dad, I guess, within the movie, he doesn't really seem like, I wouldn't say dumb, not like an intellectual, but he doesn't really seem like as a person who kind of gets this rocketry stuff, right? Like he's like, this seems like a distraction comparatively what you should be doing. You should be working in the mind. And the author writes, he goes, "My dad was a really smart person. He read a lot of books, but his dad was more of like an intellectual, like on a philosophy way versus like, like mechanically engineered, like as he is in, the story." So him and his dad actually were at odds as far as like him doing rocketry stuff, but it wasn't like, you shouldn't be doing rocketry. It's like, you should be like a teacher. You should be doing something like a lawyer or like an education. So I thought that was like a really interesting anecdote within kind of like the dichotomy of the father-son relationship there. But it was also really nice to see like a made for TV moment where he's like, "All right, I'll do this for my son."
So in that perspective, it's almost like the movie they don't really say it in the movie, but you get the feel that the dad's kind of like against the book learning side of it, where in real life maybe he wasn't against that, but he just didn't see rocketry as practical. That makes sense.
It would be like you know somebody comes to you and says like, I want to be an artist. It's like, okay, well, I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
you know so the I think because there was just, it's an emerging technology, emerging thing, is like, he's like, "This is the world I know, this is what I've seen has worked over and over again, like this isn't really going to go anywhere." So
Mhm.
there wasn't a
Yeah,
lot of,
it was probably viewed more so like, oh, my son's doing this hobby. He's very passionate about the hobby. But at the end of the day, you got to put food on your family's table. So put your rockets away and go to the coal mine.
Yeah,
yeah
exactly. That's a good way to put it. And I think they
Yeah,
even have a line in the movie that's somewhere
they
along
yeah
do.
the
Yeah.
lines of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
where he like refers to it as like a hobby.
Yeah, he's like, you want to do this in your spare time or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was like a point midway through the film where he was starting to accept the fact that his son is doing this, and Homer's just like, "Oh, cool, my dad finally accepts me," and then they twist it a little bit, and then
Yeah,
he has that next line. It's like, "Well, once you're done playing with your toys, come
yeah,
upstairs and get to work,"
that's
type of
right.
thing. So
Because it's after the first day that he skips work or whatever. So he's like, yeah, it's fine if you want to do this, but you can't skip work. And he's
yeah,
like, no, you don't understand. I'm not going to do work anymore. This is my
Right.
work.
that was another like moment in the film that actually like I liked that script writing because
Yeah,
it was very good where there was like his the writers making the audience think like, oh, his dad's fully accepting him finally, which the writing was on the table, you could see it like it was
yeah,
happening that way. But it was executed well in the movie
yeah.
where his dad's finally accepting him. Oh wait, no, he's not really accepting him. He still has this hill he has to climb up of getting his dad to understand that he's not just doing a hobby.
I do like how the argument like didn't persist right there too. Once he says like I'm never going back down in that mine, the dad like pauses on the stairs, looks at him, thinks about it, and then walks away, like keeps going up the stairs. I really like how they did that instead of like turning that into some other big fight. Like we already know it's a conflict. Get on with it.
Yeah. I think something that I gleamed from that conversation in the very beginning of the movie, um, Homer goes, "Well, I'm gonna build rockets, right?" And um, nothing. He also says this line where it's like that mine hasn't given anything to Dad except for like a spot on his lung. It hasn't given us anything, And the dad goes, "Well, you're still a boy. You don't understand, right?" Well, now that Homer's been in the mine and he's worked, what his dad has done, he has some of a different of a world perspective. So the way that I kind of took it is like, well, he's a man now. He knows how to earn like an honest day's living. So like, if he wants to make this decision, let him make this decision. And at the same time, it was like, he can start to see kind of like the value of what his son is doing because he's actually starting to win accolades and doing things within that sphere is kind of the way I took it.
And when he was like starting to become proud of him for working in the mine and everything, the mom says something to him about trying to convince him of something, and the dad says a line about like, "He's a man now. I don't think I can convince him of anything." So in that
Yep,
scene where
you're
he
right.
does just walk
Yep.
away instead of continuing the argument, it's nice to see that he acknowledges that he's already internalized that like he's a man now. I can't keep pushing him. So I feel like it just showed that he wasn't going back on what he said at the table that night.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is something that I've, kind of agree. I think I heard somebody saying within the movie, but from the very beginning, like his dad is tough but fair. Like when he's picking up his friends from, I guess, him and his friends from the jail because they got arrested. He sees one of his friends getting beat up by the stepdad because he's drunk, right? And he goes over there and breaks it up, and he tells him, he goes, you're lucky I don't kick your butt. And if the real father was here, he would have kicked your butt. And he goes into the car and he's like, he tells the boy who just got his butt kicked, he's like, your dad is one of the best men I knew. And, he really like, you know, tells him like, hey, like you have value in this world basically, and your dad was amazing and blah blah blah. This, you can see that like he was tough enough to tell the other guy off, but he's also fair enough to say like, hey man, like don't, like that guy ain't shit comparatively to to who your dad was. So
I like how you said
he's a
it
tough
like
guy.
shows him that he has value in the world and everything too, because he's kind of saying like, yeah, it sucks that this piece of work is who you're dealing with right now in life, but that's not what you came from. Like you're
Right.
cut from stronger stock than that, you know?
Yep, I agree.
I thought that was a really believable scene, and I thought that would play out like that probably, because especially guys like that would be real connected with each other. And if somebody died, often, they would have like fraternal organizations like Oddfellows or just the union or whatever, they would look after the families of people where the husband, and the dad was killed. Because often, especially in those types of little small towns and mid-century or earlier, the women couldn't do anything, so if their husbands died, they were screwed, and so, there were no real support networks if the local community didn't do something. And so often you had a lot of really strong organizations, and then just friendships like that. Like, he was a guy that was probably under him, and he's like, I knew your dad, and he was awesome. And like, I just felt that was also, that was a very accurate depiction of how that could have played out.
Yeah, I mean, the end of this movie is it starts to kind of like crescendo, and you start to kind of get like kind of more in like quote unquote, as the kids call it, in your feels, and that was part of what I start to felt was like the beginning of that. There's the speech at the end where after he gets back from his stay at the science fair, where he talks to his dad, and his dad is like, "Heard you met your hero, and you didn't even know who it was, you know." And he like walks back to me, he goes, "Yeah, that guy's a good scientist, but he's not my hero, you know." And you can tell he's talking about his dad. And there was like part of me that was like, okay, man feels, oh God, oh, which it kind of like reflected the beginning and the end of the movie. It's like, that's my dad. You know what I mean? It's like, my dad is the hero. And that's kind of the way I took it. And I was like, that's beautiful. So
I took it the opposite.
I'm sure you did, but
I don't know, man. Like I wanted that line to be that much more justified, but it's like the whole entire movie, his dad just could care less about what he's doing. So for him to be like, "You're my hero," it's like, is he though? I know he's your dad, and he's the only dad you have, and you're in a small town, so you look up to him. But he's done nothing but poo poo on your hobby / this is your dream the whole entire movie. So for you to like to come back to town and your dad still didn't go to your fair, didn't do any of these things, and be like, "You're still my hero." Like, I get it. I get it. But it just, that line just didn't pay off for me like I wanted it to, because of how they portrayed his character leading up to that moment.
I could see that, what you're talking about there. That also makes sense. My brain drew from like alternate sources that were pretty emotional. And so like I'm with Brandon, I like was like, oh, that's Jesus.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
it got me a
that's
little
how
bit,
it me too.
because all I remembered was all the stories that I'd read about, like, the guys that were minors or whatever. And then it reminded me, of my own dad, who I look up to, immensely. And so like it just combined that stuff, and I was just like, so that was the lens I viewed it through, as opposed to, but Bill, your lens is appropriate.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
it was there. Like the emotions were there, and I do like the line, and I get where they were going with, and it makes sense, and I like it, but I feel like execution wise in the movie, every single scene with him and his dad is basically like, "Your hobbies are stupid, get in the mine," and your son's still saying that you're his hero. Like,
Sure.
didn't land with me at all. So I'm curious what side you have on this one.
Bill's whole argument was, but he don't like you.
He don't like
I
you.
see.
No, he likes his
Oh.
son. He don't like his rockets.
Yeah.
I like the sentiment of the scene. I'm not sure I like the execution quite as much.
Yeah.
And I mean, the sentiment for me is there kind of the same way you guys talk about, coming from an emotional standpoint, because I have kind of a similar relationship with my dad, where he's technically my stepdad, but he was there since the day I was born and everything like that. And so this is a man who's worked so hard his entire life for a kid that wasn't even his, from the age of 16 all the way up through now. And so I have a very similar relationship where we didn't see eye to eye all the time on everything, but he was always like my top guy that I've ever known. And the reason it doesn't work so well as me in execution is because I've had a lot of those moments with my dad where we've kind of talked about this kind of thing, and I've tried to express to him how much I like, how high he is in my list of people and everything like that. And it just never comes off that like, "You're my hero," like it's always a much more like roundabout, like I'm trying to tell him he's my hero, but I'm also like a stubborn guy too, so I don't articulate it as movie as they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That is my point of the whole Oscar bait thing, is where
yeah,
it's like I agree with what they were doing there. I would like, character wise, that's where it needs to go, but like leading to that point, every single scene is just like, your rockets are stupid, get in the mind, and it's just like, and for them to just force that in that scene, it just didn't, it wasn't justified
see,
for me.
I
So
don't
I
feel
totally.
quite as harsh about it as you might in that, and it's for one particular reason. It's because I see it as a full circle moment from that beginning line, from when he says, "That's my dad, that's my
Yeah.
dad." It's because
Yeah.
like in that moment, I think they kind of set up that he is his hero in the very beginning. Like he knows how important he is to the town. He knows how important he is for people's safety, including his own friends' dads and things like that. So I think there is that aspect of it that they kind of sprinkle in. But to your point, every scene after that is going against the grain with it. So, um, yeah, I don't know that I feel quite as harsh about it, but I don't know that it was executed as well as I would have liked.
Again, I think it's just it's all Oscar bait, like
Yeah.
like compounding off of what you're saying. They sprinkle it in there with the scene you just mentioned, Brandon, about standing up for his friends because his stepdad's an idiot and stuff like that. So they're showing how good his dad is as a character and as a human. But I think they just drove home too hard in the film every scene where he's just like, your rockets are stupid.
Well, and then even in the scene itself where he says like the way Homer is saying it to his dad is almost like, you're kind of an idiot. Like, can't you see that you're my hero, not this guy? And it's like that's where it doesn't work as well for me because it's like, as you said, every scene is going against that. And so I feel like it could have been done in a more heartful way for him to be like, not as like, isn't it obvious that you're the one that's my hero? You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm articulating that as well as I.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's why like I'm on the same boat as you. Like I don't have the same upbringing that you do. Thanks for sharing like your connection with that, and that's exactly my point. Is like it seemed like the emotion and the need for that scene is justified. I'm not saying that it's not. It's just their execution of it was too on the nose, too Hollywood, too like, just we need the scene in there to really, come full circle rather than it being a more organic scene or something like that. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I'm with it. I feel similar as I do to the scene. I just related it to the full circle moment from the beginning where it's like, I get the point of that's my dad, but the execution is the part I didn't like. And then it's the same thing in this particular scene. I get the need for that moment, but the execution I feel like could have been, I don't know what I would prefer it to have been, but it just what it is didn't land as hard as I think they wanted it to for me.
If I cared more about the film, I probably would think about a creative scene, but I guess my mind just shut off from it.
That's the segue because all I was thinking of this whole time is like, Bill, what are those things in film and animation called where you have like an idea and it's like a comic book progression and there's, what an animatic or something? What is it called?
Oh, animatic.
And is that the word?
Well, I don't know what you're trying to reference. Animatics are usually like how you storyboard a scene before you actually like shoot it. So that way you can I mean, like traditionally it would just be a storyboard, but now that we have quicker animation abilities, animatics are basically just moving storyboards.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But all I could think of is like a Bill version of this of a non-Oscar bait version of this movie, and it just gets to the point where it's like town caves in, everyone dead, the end. It's just something that would just like shocking, and then
a rocket comes out of the cave in.
Yeah, I don't know. That still sounds like Oscar bait to me when we think about movies like Parasite.
They all died. Single fallen tear.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then it would have just won an award as like some like weird horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes a real twist there.
Well, I was gonna say I would just echo what John was saying. I mean, I have a similar father-son relationship. My my stepdad, my dad has been around since, I've been like 4.5. So I really relate with this scene on an emotional level. I think pseudo psychological, like analyzing this, I think just because we're men, we don't really talk about our emotions. Like there's not a lot of like, bro, I love you situations until like you're forced into those situations.
Or you're wasted.
Definitely, or you're wasted. Yep.
Love you, man.
Yeah. Love you, man. You were like there for me, man.
Yeah.
We're brothers, bro.
Like the father-son relationship, just I guess in like in general, like I don't know if it's an American thing or if it's just father-sons in general. Like I just don't feel like we have those conversations with our fathers like ever of like, hey, what you mean to me or anything like that. Like I as an example, this year I got both my folks, but really kind of interested to see my dad's answers, only for the simple fact because there's parts of his life that I don't know about, just because he's my stepfather, and he just is a person who just doesn't share those situations with me. But like, there's questions like, hey, when did you decide this moment in your life? And they're just really like, not like high thinking, but like just like clear cut answers, like you would want to ask something. There's moments, just men that we hang out in general. You and I, Bill, can go hang out for 2 days and have a weekend together. And it's like, so what's Bill been up to? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Dude, Danessa gives me so much shit about that sometimes. Like, do you know anything about your best friend? I'm like, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, but we're also I mean, for those also the type of creatures who are like, like, hey, do you think so and so would like this on their sandwich? No, he definitely hates that.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I just think communication with men is not always there. So I think the on the noseness of that scene, for me at least, was like maybe that psychological thing in the back is like, you are my hero, Dad. Like,
yeah,
that.
you needed that.
It's like that's the part that made it work for you.
Yeah,
I can see
exactly.
that. Yep.
So, moving on to like the very last part of this whole movie, we have basically their last rocket. This is their grand finale. This is their their encore, so to speak.
The big one.
The big one. Their last rocket. In the movie, they named the rocket after the teacher, who ends up having Hodgkin's disease, which actually she does. And interesting anecdote, she ends up staying at the school and teaching there, and her disease gets so bad that this is kind of a weird anecdote, but the kids end up having to like take her on a stretcher like to and from classes because her disease gets so bad. So I can, in my mind, I just imagine her like laying in a classroom like trying to teach while she's doing her thing.
Reminds me of the teacher from South Park that's in like the Darth Vader thing, like rolling around the street. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I've seen that.
It's because like Trent Boyette burned her or whatever when she was young.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
So you're saying that's what actually happened with her in the book and in real life? They stretchered her, because that's not what they put in the movie, and that's another Oscar bait thing that I just it was just irritating me.
So interestingly enough, the teacher, her name is evading me right now, but the teacher was only like a few years older than the seniors there. She was a very, very young teacher, and so she's like, if you can imagine, like, so Homer, I think, is like 16, 17 at the time. I think she was only like 20, 21 at the time that she was teaching him. So like, she's almost a peer at this point, and she was just so dedicated to teaching. Like, she never married. She knew she was going to die. She had this disease for a long time. I think they obviously played it up a little bit for the movie when they get back, like, where's the teacher, and that, but that's just something that she knew that she had. So she wanted to teach till the very, very end. Like in real life, she wanted to make sure that she had some type of impact. So
there, once again, Oscar bait script. Give us that version of it. Instead, what we got was he got back to town and he goes to the hospital or wherever she's at, where she's dying. Basically, it's her dying scene, and it was just so stereotypical. Wow, her hair is perfect. Oh, she just got makeup on and everything, and she's dying in this bed, basically. And it's like, it's this heartfelt moment where she's like, I'm so proud of you, type of thing. But she just looks beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, give us the real side of it. Give us what you just said, where they have to stretcher her from room to room. Like, this is her life, and the Hodgkin's disease is not going to like, I would have loved that way better than like, oh, we got to give her shining moment of dying in bed.
See, I'm curious how the timelines line up there then, because I think she died when she was like 37. So if all that happened when she was like early 20s, there's a huge.
Then they're really milking it. Then they were really milking that Hodgkin's disease.
I think it said that she was 31 when she 30. Died.
Okay, yeah, that actually might be right. Yeah, but either way, I mean,
like in the credits or the after thing.
So she technically, in this film, she would have only been like 22-ish or whatever, far away from her deathbed.
Yeah.
But again, in the movie, they had to put that scene in there, like, I'm dying.
For me, the reason they had to put it in was for the scene, another scene that I feel like doesn't work. Once again, I love this movie, but there's plenty of things that don't work in it. And one of them is that she can see the rocket launch perfectly right in the center of her.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I thought that was kind of lame.
I was like,
That
all
was
right.
terrible.
Yep. All right.
That's my point. I think that was
Yeah.
like I got through the whole film, and that was one of those like table flip moments where it's
Yep.
like, come on.
Yeah.
From like a storybook standpoint, like it works, but like it was so unbelievable. You're like, really? It's going to be right there that she can see it, just leaning like this.
Yeah.
You know, just looking out the window.
Come closer. I can't see you with these old eyes.
And then the rocket comes in.
Yeah. Blows them both up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just that was okay. I wasn't pissed off watching the whole movie, but there was definitely scenes like I've mentioned throughout, and there was that scene where I'm just like, like your reaction, Tyler, where it's just like, and the rocket's back there, and it's just like such a Hallmark
an eye
moment.
roll.
Yeah.
You know, really,
movie, you're better than this.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, the scene where, like, the whole town gets to see the rocket go up for the last time. In my mind, I had what's that song from Lion King, like Hakuna Matata, where just like everybody, like all the animals are like looking up to the sky, like
quick before the hyena come.
So his dad finally coming out to see his rocket launch, and his reaction, execution wise, I liked, because it's actually, he finally saw his son shoot off this rocket that's going miles and miles and miles above the ground. Like if they put that scene in there and then reworked the other scene where it's like, you're my hero, it could have just been like, Dad, I'm shooting off one last rocket, or whatever it may be, like, I'd like you to be there. That would have been so much stronger than just on the nose, you're my hero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then that last scene where he finally shows up and his reaction to like, oh, holy crap, this isn't just a hobby. You know what I mean? Like, he's actually doing great things. Like it landed so good.
The nice thing about it landing too is that is one of the true parts of the story, that he showed up at that last rocket launch and he was the one to hit the button. So I thought that's really cool that wasn't fabricated, like, because that would be, that's a great ending to put in for this particular story. It's nice that it is the real ending as well.
Yeah, it for me, it just was undermined a little bit. Like it's still so well executed, and they actually did a good job of that ending.
Yeah,
that it the whole hero scene doesn't kill it for me, but it's undercut a little bit. Like,
I see what you mean.
Like they just need to rework that scene, in my opinion. But yeah, it was. That's what we needed throughout the whole film, is to see his father finally see the rocket go up in the sky, and they gave it to us.
Yeah,
and they executed it very well.
I agree with you there.
And then there's Laura Dern dying with her makeup on.
Brandon, did you catch the year that it said that that the dad died in reality? Did you write that down?
I want to say it was 1975, because the mine closed in 1967. So I want to say it was 1975 as the dad died, and then the mom retired from Myrtle Beach in 1978, I think.
I saw that. That was funny that it said that. Yeah.
I would say that just segues right into my last part of it, is the ending montage, where they kind of like do like this is where everybody ended up, you know, type of thing. All of the Rocket Boys, they end up going to college and doing their own thing, and Homer is the only one who ends up going to NASA, and he ends up writing the book, The Rocket Boys. They go through the teacher dies. I believe they had said at like 35. I could have been
31.
31, I think is what we're saying. Yeah,
31. Cool. So she dies at 31. They go through the Rocket Boys. They go through the dad. They go through the mom, and they go through the mind. I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of movies that end like this. I actually like when like there's true stories like this, and they're like, this is where this person ended up. This is where this person ended up. And they show like footage from that time period, or like of the actual people. You're like, oh, that person cool. does kind of look like the actor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
I found it fascinating that the other Rocket Boys didn't go on to work at NASA too.
Particularly like, Quentin, yeah.
Yeah, the nerd. What did he end up doing? He's like a rancher or something like that, right?
I think he was the one that was like an insurance guy or something. I don't
Well,
remember.
that begs me to ask: is Quentin in the story Quentin the nerd because they need a nerd to further the movie and the dialogue on,
Hmm.
or is Quentin was he actually the nerd at the time? He just gave up on his nerddom and became a car salesman or something like that. You know what I mean?
Maybe he didn't give up on
Um,
the nerddom. Maybe he just did the math and there was more money in cars.
He's
that's
the smartest one of them all.
he's the smartest one of them all. Yeah. So. Well, at this point in time, guys, we are done with our meat and potatoes section of this podcast. So, guys, at the end of every podcast, we, are going to sit here. We're going to kind of put our minds together. We're going to rate this guy. How would you guys rate this film on our general movies, film, cinema scale? I always like to start things off just so I can open the dialogue. For me, this kind of felt in between movie and film, more leaning towards film, only because, to Bill's point, this kind of feels like Oscar bait. Is shot very cinematically. There are very iconic scenes that we have inside this movie that have very iconic lines. I do think it's a really good family film. I really enjoyed kind of the overall message and idea and themes. If you can get past kind of because we're avid movie watchers, if you can kind of get past the cliches, because if you're not a person who watches movies all the time, you really kind of enjoy the cliches that come along with this. I'm going to start at the top. Let's go with we'll go with John, Tyler, and then Bill. You can kind of round us out there with your hate for the movie.
Nice little period.
Yep, nice little period at the end. But John, if you want to go ahead and start us off, what do you think you rate this film? Is it movies, film, or cinema?
I'd probably say film on this one. Um, and I'd say it probably lands pretty well right in the middle of that. It doesn't have any like of the spectacle that I feel like would normally be required for if we're breaking it down this way for cinema. There's nothing really like large scale. There's no really like wow moments or anything like that. There's nothing that pulls you in so far that you feel like you're there with them type experience. So that's why I would keep it out of the cinema. And also, a lot of times when I think of movie category, it's for lack of being able to explain it a better way off the top of my head. A lot of times, just like silly comedies are going to fall into that category. Things that didn't have as much effort put into them. Even though this one, we've definitely criticized a lot of things throughout it today for being done as like Oscar bait type stuff to kind of reflect back on what we've been calling it the whole time. Um, it's still probably wasn't the easiest of movies to make when it comes to like the research and like matching the time period and making sure, as Tyler has said, like a lot of the terminology and the equipment and the mines and all that were accurate. The way a company town was depicted was all accurate. A lot of those emotions that the movie tries to drive, and even the fact that it's shown in school for multiple different reasons, for like education on physics and the space program, and also just inspiring kids to do things that they find passion in. A lot of that stuff just for me puts it right down the middle of the lane in that film category.
Beautiful. Tyler, your turn, my friend. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I mean, it wasn't like I'm just trying to think of what category I would slot it. Like other films that I would kind of place it next to, like that would be parallel. I guess it kind of drawn like a blank at the moment. But it was funny when you were talking about this stuff at the beginning. I was going to say this, but it just reminded me just now. It did almost kind of start and play out like some of those sports films that are period sports films. It could have gone in. It could have become one of those and not been about the Rockets, and it would have kind of been the same.
Hmm. I see what you mean there.
I don't, and I hadn't thought of that when I was watching it, but then when you guys were talking about it, I was like, and that's as somebody who doesn't know anything about sports, but I've seen a couple of those movies, and this felt like that,
Like, hey, this feels just like Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
something like that. It's a period piece. It's done pretty well, but I mean, it's nothing to like really write home about unless it's something that you connect with on some other level. And that's why I liked it. Is that like I ended up connecting with it, on these other levels, especially with the mining stuff, which was really funny, And so I really ended up enjoying it, like just from a personal perspective, because that's something that I'm passionate about. And so that was a surprise. And, the rocket stuff was interesting, I remember thinking that it was interesting, 25 years ago or whatever. But I'd also say, probably like film, it's not just like a, some throwaway comedy or something that you just put on as background noise or whatever. I don't know. I'm not super good at classifying this kind of stuff in that way, but yeah, I'm gonna agree with that though, and say that it definitely wasn't like top tier cinema, but certainly wasn't like forgettable. At least for me, I could see how this movie might be forgettable for some people, but I don't personally classify it like that.
Fair enough. End us with a positive note, right, Bill?
Let me just confirm and say I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It's interesting to hear. I slept a lot in grade school, so maybe this was in my science class. I don't know, but I didn't grow up with it. I don't remember seeing it ever. There were a couple iconic scenes that I mentioned earlier that I remember seeing in passing as a kid or whatever, of him like looking up at Sputnik or whatever. Yeah, I have no emotional connection to this film as the younger version of me. And so going in and watching it now, it's really hard for me to like detach myself from the fact that it's 2025 and this is a 1999 movie. So it's a totally different pace, totally different feel or whatever. But all that aside, yeah, everything that I've mentioned before, it's just hard to not. I didn't get any emotion out of it. There's no connection because of the formulaic script that was written. But I would classify it still as, I have to put all that aside, and it's still in the film category. It's definitely not a throwaway movie. There are the aspects and the emotion of it that do speak to so many people. And I guess there is the history of it being in people's science classes. So there's that.
But I wonder if there was like a national push for that or something, because it is kind of bizarre that a bunch of us remember that. Maybe it was just here.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also like one of those things where because Sputnik was Russian, and this was when was the whole Cold War?
That was basically at the end of World War II, so 1946 to 1991.
Yeah, until the Soviet Union fell. Yeah, right.
Okay, so that's not. But I mean, like America's always been like we're number one. And we have to be first in the space race and all that stuff. So I'm wondering if, like, to your question there, I wonder if there was like some national push, maybe because this is a story
inspire
about
these
Sputnik.
kids to build rockets.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, I don't know, because at the end of the film, you know that it was capped off with the Challenger space shuttle being shot off, and that is in the 90s, and that generation Challenger was like the most advanced scientific thing ever invented by humans at that time.
Was that Challenger?
Because Challenger was one of the shuttles, right?
Challenger was the one that blew up.
Yeah, I know. I misspoke, but shuttle is what I meant. Challenger is just the first name that comes to mind.
You just mean the space shuttle, yeah.
Space shuttle in general. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
I didn't know. I was like, oh, is there some like connection with like? Ooh, I didn't.
No, that would have been that would have been the wrong ending to put at this film.
Yeah, well, that's why I was like, 'cause, like I miss shit like that sometimes. I'm like, well, that was a nice ending, and it was like, no, it was like foreshadowing this horrible event, and I would not have known.
Well, isn't there some whole movie that's like a rom-com, and then it ends with like the dudes in one of the two towers at the end? It's like some Robert Pattinson movie or something, I want to say. And it's like the whole movie ends up being a bait and switch for it being a sob story that this guy died in 9/11. But it's like the whole movie leading up to it is like a rom-com. I can't think of what the title is for it. I got to look it up.
I would love to hear it. Maybe we can.
It's on all kinds of like videos for like Screen Rants and stuff. It's always like listed as one of these like horrible taste, like things done in poor taste. You know what I mean?
That sounds interesting. I mean, like, what is it? It like turns into like being trapped in the Tower of London, and it's like some psychological thing at that point.
No, the Twin Towers is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Twin Towers.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
I just heard Tower, and for some reason, I just thought of the Tower of London.
No, it's like some love story, like some will they, won't they nonsense or whatever. And then at the end, it turns out the guy's in one of the towers, so he dies anyway. And like that's the whole movie. I got to find out what it is.
It's Remember Me.
Ah, yeah, there you go.
Which, interestingly enough, Homer's dad, Chris Cooper, is in it.
Is he really? Nice.
Yes,
the
There's a
dad.
little
and I
connection
think
right
he
there.
plays the dispensable dad in that one. I think
Perfect.
he plays like a New York cop or something like that.
He's probably pissed off the whole time.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, this is the first time we get to do this since this is our technically our second episode. We get to compare this movie to other movies within our season. So the other movie that we've watched within our season is Blast from the Past. So in same pecking order, we'll do the same thing. I actually enjoyed Blast from the Past more than I did. Forgive me, October Sky. I do think that October Sky is more important cinematically, quote unquote cinematically, but I just found Blast from the Past more enjoyable.
On to me then.
Yep.
It's a tough one for me. I like Blast from the Past a lot, but rewatching it, I will say it didn't hit as hard as it used to, and October Sky still did. So in that sense, for me, I would say I think I like October Sky more. Um, Even though Blast from the Past would probably be the one that I would return to rewatch more frequently if I was given the choice, because it is kind of a more fun, upbeat movie. It's easier to just sit down and kind of casually watch it. But yeah, I think if I had to choose between the two, which one I actually like more, it might be October Sky. And that part of that is probably the nostalgia of it too.
Fair enough. Tyler?
That's a hard question. They're so different. I did like, both of them had, some period stuff, so that was cool. I would have to agree and say that Blast from the Past is definitely like an easier watch. I don't know if even with like the mining stuff, I don't know if I'd really go back to October Sky. I mean, because beyond those couple of things that I kind of resonated with, it didn't. I thought it was a good story and it was interesting and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't do that much for me if I take out like the really anecdotal, like personal weird stuff that connected me to it. Yeah, I probably will have to say that I probably liked Blast from the Past more.
Beautiful. And round us out, Bill?
I'd go back to October Sky before Blast from the Past.
Really?
Wow. Okay. Hot
No, I'm
take.
kidding. I'm totally kidding.
That's a surprise right there.
I was going to say, really?
No, I'm sure like it like Tyler said, they're totally different films. But entertainment wise, October Sky again didn't really do it for me. So obviously, I'd go back to Blast from the Past before October Sky again. So I'm glad I've seen it because, like I said, I know I've always heard the name October Sky. I honestly didn't know what it was about going into this, and I didn't want to watch a trailer or anything. I thought it was a drama love story or something like an American Beauty type of thing.
It has that kind of name.
That exactly. The October Sky, I always thought it was some sort of, Garden State type of movie.
Yeah.
But so didn't know it was nerdy and science. And
it sounds like a terrible romance title,
Yeah.
like for some like forgettable
like paper book romance.
Yeah,
novel.
like one of those like dime novels.
Yeah.
Well,
that's exactly where my mind was kind of going. So I didn't know what to expect going into this.
Honestly, I didn't remember.
I'm glad I've seen it now.
I didn't remember at all where the title came from. So rewatching it and picking up that was in October that Sputnik went over for them, that was like a lifelong question that I've had. Why is that movie called October Sky? And then
exactly,
now
and then also like Brandon was saying, Brandon, you were saying it's also what is it, anagram?
Yep,
yeah, for Rocket
correct.
Boys.
Yep. Interesting.
Awesome. I didn't know that either.
Fun fact about the reason why they chose October Sky, though, is they shopped around the name Rocket Boys, and they shopped it around, and they said women age, I think they said like 25 and older, weren't interested in watching a movie named Rocket Boys. So they changed the name purely just because of marketing reasons.
To make it seem like a
drama
book,
rom-com.
paperback.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all.
I think that was a really intelligent. That was a really smart choice.
You're my hero, Dad.
Yeah.
I did have a question for everybody here. Aside from like your do-it-yourself type stuff or like the ones you can buy at Walmart, have any of you guys ever actually seen a real rocket launch?
I don't think so.
I did for the first time this last year. It was really cool. Shirley and I were in Florida just vacationing, and and we went to the beach, and which was not near where we were. We had to drive like an hour, so we took like a whole day to do it. And it ended up being real rainy, bad weather. Couldn't really hang out too much on the beach, and so we left. And we ended up having one more random day that we didn't have anything planned. So we're like, let's go back to the beach, see if we can make that work again. And we went down there, and within like 10 minutes of setting up our blanket, this lady comes walking by, and she's like, "You guys here for the launch?" And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Oh yeah, there's a shuttle launching
You're
in
like,
like
yeah,
15
I love
minutes."
lunch.
I was like, "Yeah, yeah, right." But so yeah, just kind of randomly, we just showed up at a beach that 15 minutes later or 20 minutes later, whatever it was, there was a rocket launch, and it was the first time I ever got to see one. It is cool. It is super, super
That's super
bright.
cool.
Like,
What time of day did you see
I
it?
want to say this was probably right around noon. So, and it was a pretty clear sky, pretty bright sunny day.
A similar experience. I was at my boss's house in Cocoa Beach, and we were just at a random bar. Same exact thing. This bar, because the bar was on Cocoa Beach, so the back part of the bar you could sit at like one of those outside table areas, and then there was like a little bridge that went over to the beach, so it's like connected almost. And there was a random lady that was just like, "You guys seeing the launch?" We're like, "What?" So
Yeah,
we just walked out to the beach, and this was at like probably 10:30 at night or something like that.
sure.
So it
Oh,
really
cool.
lit up the
Yeah.
sky. Like,
Yeah, I mean, this
yeah, it's
during the day, it didn't light obviously didn't light the sky or anything, but it's still so bright. It's like if you can imagine the brightness of the sun, but scaled down like to just a tiny
yeah.
point. It was like it's nothing. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's really cool, actually.
Have you ever seen a taken from space photography of a rocket launch?
I feel like I have, but not sure that I can
It
recall it to
it's
mind as we're talking.
It's so crazy because like as kids we're so used to just like the coverage of a nice telephoto lens looking at a launch of the Challenger. I mean the space shuttle.
Right.
But like we're so used to just seeing that close up of the engines igniting for the first time and a close up of tracking it or whatever. When you actually see a photo of a rocket from space like coming through clouds, it's like tiny and insignificant.
Right.
It puts it in perspective of how we have created this thing. Man has made this massive rocket thing that can lift up thousands and thousands of pounds of metal and all this, and it's just this like explosion of energy and everything, and then you see it from space, and it's just this little tiny
Yeah,
little piece of rice that's just coming out of our atmosphere. It like
that's crazy.
the perspectives are mind blowing.
Yeah, I love stuff like
Nerd
Well,
that. That's
talk
awesome.
over.
I was gonna say,
Because it's
Sorry
you saw,
guys.
John, you saw the launch at Cape that was like Cape Canaveral, right?
I want to say so. Yeah, I don't know like exactly where everything is in Florida. I was just along for the ride, but it was a blast.
Sure. I've
I
I've
literally,
been to like that facility before, but I don't think that we were there like within when they were going to launch anything. So
Sure. Yeah, we weren't close or anything, but it was still cool. I was trying to film it too, and sadly, I was like pointing in the wrong direction at first. So on the video that I have of it, you see it like already a little bit in the air because I was like, "Oh shit, it's to the left a little," and I like had to move over. But it was still really cool. My wife got the whole thing, so
there you go. That's awesome. Well, I always like to push my physical media soapbox. You can get October Sky on streaming. You can do it on, I believe, Amazon Prime. But as you can see over my left shoulder, but screen right, I've got October Sky on Blu-ray. It's on actually on sale right now. I got it on sale through Amazon. um, but it's on Blu-ray, DVD. I believe it's on VHS as well. So go out there and go support your local video store. The very, very last thing that I always like to do with us is just try to keep us as relevant as possible. I'm going to go last as per usual. But I just want to say, hey, what are you guys watching? What are you guys reading or doing anything else besides, what we're doing here? We'll start with you, John, and work our way through.
so I've been watching this most recent season of Silo lately. It's pretty good on Apple TV Plus. Rebecca Ferguson is incredible in it, so if nothing else, I recommend watching it just for her performance. She's awesome, as she always is. But movie-wise, I did finally get to catch Sonic 3, and I really enjoyed that. Uh, I know I've heard some varying opinions on it, but for me, I felt like it just worked so well. To me, it was everything it needed to be. It was just fun, had the right amount of action in it, right amount of jokes in it. 2 Jim Carreys, so that's awesome. It was a blast, and Keanu Reeves as Shadow. I never knew I needed Keanu Reeves as Shadow so much in my life, but that was awesome. So yeah, I had a blast with that one.
Yeah, Jim Carrey is probably the best part about that whole movie. I unfortunately am on the latter side of that. I didn't enjoy as much as the at least first one and half as much as the second one.
Sure.
How about you, Tyler? What have you been watching? What have you been reading? What have you been up to?
I was just say that's like this is kind of like it's winter here, so this is kind of like the doldrums for me. I just been doing like random research into stuff that I'm interested in personally. Nothing. I don't know if I really have anything that interesting to write home about.
Yeah, what have you been researching, man?
Well, I was recently I was reading a book, and I can't even think of the guy's name because I'm not really reading it seriously. It's just like looking through it to see what's in there. It was a doctor that had been doing a bunch of like consolidation of research on human nutrition. And I just was curious, like what his opinion was. And I actually wasn't really thrilled with it because a lot of the research that he was citing, I just don't think is very robust. So and that was a reason I wasn't really taking it super seriously anyway. But then also like there's, I get stuck on researching like the histories of different like mining districts. I do that during the winter because I can't go anywhere really because everything's snowed in. And so this is like research season where I'm like, well, I really want to revisit this. Sure. Okay. Here are some things that maybe I want to see, or I haven't, looked into this, or just like loose end stuff. And
Yeah.
then, maybe some photography related things, but yeah, nothing. I mean, that's why you guys like, I'm like the outlier. Like, what movies are you watching? Like, I don't think I've seen any this year, besides the stuff that we've been talking about, so.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's why I try to open it up and like, hey, what are you reading? What have you been watching?
Sure.
Or,
Yeah.
Because I mean, there will be points in time, especially now that Captain America is going to be coming back in to play here soon. I'm going to be picking up some graphic novels here.
I mean, I guess a super random one is I've been reading some like random books on tarot, if you know what that is, and so that stuff is interesting to me just from more like a sociological or psychological standpoint. That's kind of fascinating. And like, do I understand it? No idea. But
That's why you're reading about
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That's why I'm reading about it. It's that stuff is interesting to me. So
Almost
that's
wore a
pretty
tarot
interesting.
shirt today.
Did someone wear a tarot shirt?
I almost did. I chose.
Oh,
Zero
did you? I was
instead,
like,
yeah.
I was like Zero. I thought that was like a skate company.
It is.
I was
Yeah.
like, I guess I really don't know anything about it.
Well, awesome. Bill, what have you been watching or reading or what have you?
Lots of things. Two shows that I blasted through: Day of Jackal and The Penguin. The Penguin started off strong and then was okay at the ending, but the whole entire time, my wife was just couldn't believe that was Colin Farrell. So, and I think they did win an award for. I think he won the award for Best Actor, and I think they might have won an award for
Makeup.
Yeah. And Day of Jackal, I jumped into. It's Eddie Redmayne. He plays a sharpshooter for hire. But there is a scene towards the end of the show where he's on a boat trying to shoot the main guy, and he mounts his sniper rifle on a Steadicam from like the early 2000s, and it is absurd. Like, and they did it mainly to like most people don't know what a Steadicam is, and this is like an older Steadicam, so it looks even weirder. I'll throw up a scene from the show. So they basically just did it to like, what kind of stabilizer can we put this gun on to make it look weird and high tech? And if you're an operator or you work in the film industry, you see that scene and you just, I get what they were trying to do, but it was just too much.
You're just like,
yeah,
right.
Exactly. And then the ending of the show just kind of petered off for me. But two movies that since our last taping of this podcast that was at the tail end of the year was Nosferatu and The Substance. And
Great
man,
movie. Really great.
Two really good gems. Well, you didn't like The Substance, right? Or it just wasn't for you?
This wasn't for me. The body horror stuff. Like, I mean, I'm a big zombie movie fan, like for sure. But the body horror for me, it just was like, it was too much. I don't know why. Maybe it just made him feel more.
It was It was too much, but that was the point. I was so good. Like Tyler, there's a scene at the end of this movie where there's like a huge grotesque monster thing, and it just starts spewing blood all over the audience. And I was just thinking of you and thinking of Guar and like just a metal show, because that's basically what it was. It was like a
Okay.
Guar metal show is what they did at the end of this film, and they actually had metal music playing in it, and it took a whole like left turn from like what the, I mean, it was in like it was justified in that scene, but it was totally like the pacing and the timing and the feeling that you got from it was like a whole like, where is this coming from, like compared to the whole rest of the movie. But oh man, the substance was probably in a top tier of my favorite like horror films. And then Nosferatu, obviously, it was just,
And that's that new vampire movie,
Yep.
right?
well, there was an original Nosferatu from like the 20s, I believe.
Yeah.
It was a German expressionism, and this is
That
not
one I know about. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically that, and it's
okay.
Robert Eggert's fourth film after The Lighthouse and The Northman, and
I
it's
think I heard that one is really good. Is it great? Because like that was something...
he's 4 for 4 at this point. But yeah, it's, in my opinion, the ending was a little like, it kind of petered off a little bit, but it's a solid movie, beautiful cinematography. If Lily Rose Depp doesn't win some sort of award for her performance in it, my God,
That's
Hollywood is crazy.
That's the name that I recognized. I was like, okay, that was, yeah, because somebody had told me like you would probably like that because it's like good Victorian era stuff, you know. So
I don't know if you've seen the original Exorcist, but they did a lot of like
long time ago.
Yeah, they did a lot of like on-set like visual effects in order to achieve what that kid, the possessions, were doing. Lily Rose Depp in Nosferatu, she was like in it. And I need to look at to see if they had like a body double for some of the contorting stuff, but she did a lot of her like on. You could tell like she was like contorting and doing all this stuff. Like she went all out in this role. She better win something.
Yeah, she really carried a lot of the scenes within the movies as well. Well, I guess I'll finish her off, guys. Some movies I've been watching, kind of in the same vampire genre. This movie came out last year. Well, I guess technically 2 years now because we're in the year 2025. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I would highly recommend you don't watch this movie.
I'm gonna watch it now. Now that you're recommending it out to, I want to. What is it called?
Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's also a Bram Stoker's,
Dracula again, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a very small subsection of the book where he's on his voyage from, I guess, Romania to.
I've heard of this. The whole movie is just the boat ride.
The whole movie is
right?
the boat ride, and it is.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
30 minutes, way too long. So I watched the behind the scenes stuff. They actually do like the practical like makeup on the guy, and they get like a guy who like contorts and who's like a body double, and like the makeup looks really good. And then they decide, screw it, we're just going to CGI everything, and it looks like really plasticky and like PS2 style like graphics. And I was like, what the hell? And like it just is so drawn out.
And this is from, you said 2023.
Yeah, and there's a guy named Clemens, and you can read this all on our Letterboxd. I did a review. There's a guy named Clemens who I think it was like a wrong casting choice for this movie. Sir Davos of Game of Thrones is in there. He's like the captain. He does a great job. He could read me the back of the ketchup bottle of ingredients, and I would enjoy anything he did.
Yeah.
Another movie that I watched recently is kind of a different movie that I don't normally watch. It's an older movie, The Big Red One. I watched. They have like a theatrical version, and then like they call it like a reconnected version, but it's like an hour longer than the normal version. I was kind of on the fence on this one, but I can really appreciate it because there's a lot of like really cool war scenes and like, like dude, like action movie quotes, but like the movie kind of drags in certain points. And I enjoyed it. It's something, if you like that genre, you would enjoy it as well, but wouldn't recommend it. And then the very last thing I have most recently watched, I don't know if you guys have HBO Max. This is one of the few streaming services that I actually do have. But Juror Number 2, this is a Clint Eastwood film with, God, what's his name? plays Beast in X-Men, the new one.
Nicholas
Holt. Thank you very
Hoult.
much. He's also Nosferatu.
Yes, he
So
is.
this is like a really good, like, psychological, like, moral, like, dilemma, like, what would you do type of thing. But the premise of the movie is Nicholas Holt goes in for jury duty, gets selected for jury duty, and through the depositions, he's realizing, I think I might be the cause of what this murder case is about, and he's trying to decide whether or not to um, tell tell anybody basically that the guy is innocent and he's like the reason why, and it was like an accident, like it's a legit accident, but nobody would believe him because he's like a recovering alcoholic. So it's a really good, like, what if type of thing. It should have been out in theaters, but it goes direct to streaming. It's something I would highly recommend if you guys get a chance to watch it.
I've had a few recommendations for that as well.
Better than the court drama of Joker 2.
Oh my god, like night and day.
Yeah.
But all of those movies that I had just mentioned are on our Letterboxd. If you get a chance to watch us here, we'll put I'm sorry, not watch us, but listen to us and watch us. We'll put our links in the description below of what our different social medias are. On Letterboxd, we are MFCPod. On our YouTube channel, hey, if you're watching us, thanks for watching us right now. You can see us, and I'm waving hi to you. You're here. We love you. We'd like for you to like and subscribe. We're going to have all of our podcasts on our major podcasting apps, such as Spotify, Apple, and anything out there for you. We're going to put in all our major podcasting apps for you. We appreciate you guys sticking around with us today in our deep dive on one line in the beginning there, and then deep dive on our emotions on how we say we love you, Dad. But I wanted to thank the guys for spending the time, and I know that today didn't work out as we originally intended. We like we had said in the beginning, that we're originally intended to film in person. Being the weather is, we live in Colorado, random weather happens, so we appreciate you guys sticking with us and kind of feeling a little bit disjointed as far as how the flow is concerned, but sticking around and listening to us and watching us. We appreciate you guys, and we appreciate your support. I just want to tell you, as always, enjoy movies, film, cinema. Take care. That's a wrap on this episode of Movies, Film, Cinema. If you enjoyed today's feature presentation, like and subscribe. Share your comments and reviews down below. But until next time, keep the popcorn popping and the films rolling. See you at the movies!
That's my dad.
That's my dad. I love my daddy.
That sounds like some like cheesy like late 70s like sitcom.
Boop, boop, beep, boop, boop, boop,
Yeah.
boop. That's my dad.
That's my dad.